Chapter 591. By House saw the back of a woman beside the white stone stream under the breeze. The woman's back was facing him, and she was singing the song that he was hearing now. The melodious singing was the most gentle shackle. Unknowingly, her heart, which was already beating wildly, was firmly locked up. Lin Yuan logged into Star Web and immediately set off for his faction territory. Since he was going to his Star Web private faction territory this time, he wore the mask made by Hu Quan. His Star Web private faction had yet to publish its functions, so he thought it would be very quiet. However, as soon as he entered, he found 7 or 8 people standing outside his private territory chatting. Lin Yuan was a little puzzled at first, but when he heard the content of their conversation, Lin Yuan's face was immediately covered with black lines. Lin Yuan logged into Star Web and immediately set off for his faction territory. Since he was going to his Star Web private faction territory this time, he wore the mask made by Hu Quan. Since his Star Web private faction had yet to publish its functions, he thought it would be very quiet. However, as soon as he entered, he found 7 or 8 people standing outside his private territory chatting. Lin Yuan was a little puzzled at first, but when he heard the content of their conversation, Lin Yuan's face was immediately covered with black lines. Why do you guys come here in the middle of the night every day? Are you so good at watching the show? You're talking about us. You're the only one who doesn't pull seats every day. Speaking of which, you're quite sinister. You come to mock this rising faction called Sky City at a fixed time every day. I'm not mocking this rising faction, Sky City. I just feel that it's a little pitiful. Although the Nut Mercenaries are also a newly established force, if I were to encounter a member of a private force like Sky City, I would also be willing to donate some items to the newly established force, Sky City, to show off their reputation. The others looked at this member of the Nut Mercenary faction and felt as though they had eaten a fly. We've agreed to leave here later and go to your Nut Mercenary faction territory to watch the show. Your Nut Mercenary faction territory doesn't have any hard goods, yet you're still using such a high and mighty tone to want to give charity to other rising factions? Is he worthy? The pot calling the kettle black. Lin Yuan smacked his lips and glanced at them, lamenting that they were really free. Isn't it better to sleep in the middle of the night? Lin Yuan ignored them and walked into his Star Web private territory. The others had noticed Lin Yuan as soon as he arrived. At first, they only thought that Lin Yuan was just watching the show. However, he didn't expect the newcomer to be a member of Sky City. After entering the private territory, Lin Yuan checked the visitor records of his faction territory. He realized that it had taken him 5 minutes to look through the visitor records from the early hours of this morning. Thus, he gave up on the idea of checking the visitor records. At that moment, Lin Yuan realized that he had received an email from the Star Web officials in his faction territory's mailbox. When Lin Yuan saw it, he felt that he had a lot of small question marks. During this month, his Star Web private faction territory had actually appeared on the private territory's visitor list. Star Web's private territories had many rankings on the official website. Most of the rankings were relatively authoritative. It could symbolize the status of Star Web's private territory. Although a list like the visitor list was not considered an authoritative list, it was still considered a higher ranking. However, among the many non-authoritative lists, it was still considered to be one of the more valuable ones. After all, the visitor list represented the number of visitors to the Star Web private faction territory every day. Lin Yuan might feel happy if his Star Web private faction territory was only on the visitor list after it had published its functions. However, his Star Web private faction territory had not even published its functions. To put it bluntly, it was no different from an empty space. An empty space naturally would not attract people. In other words, these visitors were all here to watch the show. It was also because of these spectators that Sky City's private territory was ranked as high as 87th on the list of visitors. Even now, he was still in the 98th place on the list of friends. Lin Yuan had not put much thought into the Star Web private faction territory recently. He did not expect that his inadvertent action of not turning off the private faction territory's access authority would make a joke of himself to so many people. However, although Lin Yuan felt speechless about this situation, he did not think of a way to stop it. The current situation was equivalent to these people who came to watch the show helping Sky City to do free publicity in advance. Lin Yuan still did not intend to set up the Star Web private territory's exterior. However, Lin Yuan and the Class 5 spirit craftsman Hu Quan had spent a lot of effort on the interior design. Lin Yuan took out all the things that he had swept in through the Star Web card and piled them on the hall's floor. Then he hung Hu Quan's wheels carved from various completely jade-textured wood on the wall in the hall. These completely jade-textured wheels decorated the walls everywhere in the hall, contrasting with the bluish-white wall tiles in the hall and giving off a different kind of nobility. Then, Lin Yuan used the golden threads that Hu Quan had extracted from the completely jade-textured gold-threaded Nanmo, and connected the roulette wheels together. There were a total of 108 wheels made of completely jade-textured wood. There was a groove in the center of each wheel, and Lin Yuan placed a bronze/epic starlight grass in each groove. As a kind of fey that mainly played a decorative role, the starlight grass itself could also release weak spirit chi. Moreover, the star-like leaves of the starlight grass would automatically sway from side to side. The sway of the starlight grass's leaves made each wheel spin, which drove the gold-threaded Nanmu's golden threads to wander. At the same time, the spirit chi released by the starlight grass made the completely jade-textured wheels and the golden threads extracted from the completely jade-textured gold-threaded Nanmu's bodies emit a prison-like luster as they rotated. The shining golden threads and the shining star patterns on the starlight grass leaves seemed to form a constellation of many stars. It was as though it was daytime, but the stars in the sky had transformed into a celestial sign that towered over the blue sky. Those rotating wheels were like rudders that were unmanned but freely rotating in the sky. Above the heavens, these freely rotating rudders seemed to be using the golden threads to control the fate of all things in the mortal world. At that moment, the interior layout of the Star Web private territory could be called an unparalleled scene. Second update, seeking recommendation votes and monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 592. Although it was already an unparalleled scene, Lin Yuan was not done with his setup. Then he placed the 36 bronze/epic floating cloud flowers on it. Each floating cloud flower was placed between the 3 rotating wheels. In an instant, a hazy cloud rose from the floating cloud flower, obscuring the bright stars and the wheel. However, the bright starlight could not be completely covered, and the clouds rising from the floating cloud flowers only added a hint of haziness and an immortal aura between the wheels and the stars. Lin Yuan's setup was basically completed. Lin Yuan thought for a while and raised his hand to put away the completely jade-textured wooden table that Hu Quan had just ordered. He did not replace the ordinary wooden table that had been gifted when he had built the Star Web private faction territory. The ordinary wooden table was like a myriad manifestation of mortality, which was holding a bronze/legend oath lily of the valley. Each of the bell-like white flowers of the oath lily of the valley flickered with a faint light from time to time, as though they were collecting the oaths and faith of the mortal world for the stars under the control of the heaven wheel. After Lin Yuan left his Star Web private faction territory, he found that the number of people watching the show outside was more than 5 times more than before he had entered. Moreover, people were still coming over one after another. Obviously, after those people realized that he had entered, they had called for more people to watch the show. Lin Yuan could not help but sigh. Did these people not need to sleep during the new year? Could watching the show make a living? Lin Yuan did not have time to waste with these people. He only needed to wait until the 3rd day of the new year to show the grand scene inside Sky City's private faction territory that was like in the clouds. After Lin Yuan exited Star Web, he pulled out the Cinnabar Sweet Osmanthus from the Pure Land of Bliss in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Then, he took the Cinnabar Sweet Osmanthus to the courtyard and prepared to plant it in front of the mansion's main entrance. Lin Yuan had kept the Cinnabar Sweet Osmanthus in the Spirit Lock spatial zone because of the Cinnabar Osmanthus haworthia. He was a child who craved the Cinnabar Osmanthus haworthia to improve his spiritual energy. Now that the Cinnabar Osmanthus haworthia had left the Cinnabar Sweet Osmanthus, Lin Yuan wanted to pour out the Pure Land of Bliss in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. In any case, the damaged source of the cinnabar sweet osmanthus that had its tree core dug out had long since recovered. Just in time for the new year, an osmanthus was planted in front of the house. It could be considered as the new osmanthus entering the house, adding a bit of nobility to the house. The sky was already starting to brighten, and just as Lin Yuan was commanding the source sand to dig the pit, a voice suddenly rang out. Wen Yu's voice suddenly came from beside him. "Young master, you haven't slept all night. Why don't you have a little purple Ganoderma lamb soup that Lu Jie simmered last night?" Wen Yu knew that Hu Quan's contracted vitality sloth had restored Lin Yuan's vitality qi. Lin Yuan couldn't fall asleep no matter how hard he tried. However, she didn't expect Lin Yuan to be preparing to plant flowers in front of the mansion early in the morning. Wen Yu was a spirit attendant of the Radiant Moon Palace, so she naturally recognized the cinnabar sweet osmanthus at a glance. The cinnabar sweet osmanthus was not considered an outstanding species among all the osmanthus flowers. If they had to be ranked, they could only be ranked in the upper middle class. They couldn't even enter the upper class. However, the most interesting thing about the cinnabar sweet osmanthus was that the probability of mutation during the process of evolution was extremely high. It was rumored that one of the 10 famous osmanthus species, which was already extinct, was constantly mutated from the cinnabar sweet osmanthus. Even the Moon Empress had chosen a few cinnabar sweet osmanthus to plant in the osmanthus garden on Leaning Moon Mountain. Many of them had been promoted to superior osmanthus phase after evolving and mutating. However, in Wen Yu's impression, even the most flourishing cinnabar sweet osmanthus in the osmanthus garden on Leaning Moon Mountain was not half as flourishing as the one in Lin Yuan's hand. Looking at the clusters of blooming scarlet flowers, the tough cassia branches were already trembling under the pressure. Lin Yuan took the purple Ganoderma lamb soup that Wen Yu handed over and drank a mouthful. He felt that after the tip of his tongue came into contact with the freshness of the lamb and the spiciness of the purple Ganoderma, his entire body became warm. After a big mouthful, a thin layer of sweat also appeared on his nose. Lin Yuan had to admit that Lu Jie's cooking was really getting better and better. Moreover, Lu Jie always liked to make medicinal cuisine during this period. Medicinal cuisine made from the collision of fresh and delicious ingredients and some spirit materials with medicinal properties really had a unique flavor. Lin Yuan looked at the time and realized that it was only a little past 6 o'clock. "Why are you up so early?" Brother Lu was always the first to wake up in Xiang Chang's manner. Brother Lu usually woke up at 7. When Brother Lu woke up and made breakfast, Wen Yu came out of her room at around 7:30 am, Wen Yu took the medicinal cuisine that Lin Yuan had taken a sip of and said softly, "Last night, young master said that he wanted to know about Duan He, so I asked the spirit servant who was cleaning the hidden moon pavilion last night to help me look through Duan He's biography." Wen Yu had always understood her strengths and the role that she had to play in the private organization Sky City. When she had been a spirit attendant in the Radiant Moon Palace, she had always felt that she was extremely talented. Apart from her creation master aptitude, her strength was rather good among the other spirit attendants. However, after becoming Lin Yuan's personal assistant and getting to know Lu Jie, Listen, and even Chu Ci, he had become Lin Yuan's personal assistant. Wen Yu knew that she couldn't be compared to others in terms of strength and talent. Therefore, Wen Yu had now followed Mystic Moon's suggestion and started to help Lin Yuan manage his faction and organize information. They were determined to develop in the direction of internal affairs. After all, up until now, Wen Yu herself was a little disheartened. This was because he had not even condensed a single willpower rune. When Lin Yuan heard that, he knew that she must have not slept at all last night. "Wen Yu, what do you think about recruiting Duan He?" Wen Yu pondered for a moment and said, "Young master, I think it would be a good choice if we could recruit Duan He." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan raised his brows. After he had established his faction, Sky City, it could be said that he had not put as much effort into it as Wen Yu. Wen Yu had always been the strictest among everyone when it came to the selection of talents. For Duan He to be able to bear the words "not bad" from Wen Yu's mouth, in addition to his character, his talent should also be very good. "Tell me, what did you find out about Duan He last night?" Wen Yu did not look at the organized information in her hands. Instead, she had long known about Duan He's information. Duan He's character is very good. When he was king class, he had the experience of serving as a spirit guard in the spirit guards. Upon hearing the word spirit guard, Lin Yuan was slightly startled. Since Lin Yuan's parents were both members of the spirit guard, he had a special feeling for the word spirit guard. In Lin Yuan's heart, everyone who protected the common people in danger was worthy of respect. They were also the most adorable people. Third update, seeking recommendation votes and monthly votes. Thank you to the most adorable and great people for carrying the burden in the wind and rain. End of this chapter. Chapter 593. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and asked, apart from the spirit guards, has Duan He joined any other factions? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's question, Wen Yu shook her head. Duan He hasn't joined any other factions, but he joined an Emperor-class expert squad. I don't know why, but he withdrew from the team. However, Duan He's strength is not bad. Duan He's contract direction with phase is water-type attack Fey affinity. According to the Hidden Moon Pavilion's records, as of 3 years ago, his main phase were the Suzerain/Myth-Eye Six-Headed Sea Demon Snake and the Suzerain/Myth-Eye Thunderwave Sky Rumbling Conch. Lin Yuan frowned slightly when he heard Wen Yu talk about Duan He's Fey affinity and the name of his main Fey. When Lin Yuan had seen Duan He had been controlling a Diamond X/Fantasy V Sword Plume Sea Eagle. However, not only did the Sword Plume Sea Eagle not match Wen Yu's Fey affinity, but it was also not among Duan He's main Feys. Does Duan He have a Sword Plume Sea Eagle among his other Feys? Wen Yu shook her head. Duan He probably can't afford to raise other Feys after raising a six-headed sea demon snake. However, he contracted a source-type life form, the Phaseless Bird, 5 years ago. The Sword Plume Sea Eagle that young master mentioned might be an evolved source-type life form, the Phaseless Bird. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan knew what was going on. The source-type life form, the Phaseless Bird, was the same as the source seed that he had strengthened into Red Thorn. After the contract, it would mutate and evolve in a specific direction according to the contractor's requirements. Several source-type life forms, the Phaseless Bird and Source Seed, had also been found in the Radiance Federation, and they were not single source-type life forms. However, unlike Source Seeds, which were treated as trash by people, the source-type Phaseless Bird was considered an extremely expensive source-type life form. In terms of price, it was even comparable to a fairy source-type life form. Lin Yuan recalled the Sword Plume Sea Eagle's abilities and exclusive skills that he had used True Data to check and could not help but sigh. Duan He had really raised the Phaseless Bird to such a state. This was because the Sword Plume Sea Eagle's pure pursuit of attack strength and attack range was simply too one-sided and extreme. However, he recalled that Duan He's main contracted Fey was a six-headed sea demon snake. Lin Yuan increasingly felt that Duan He had nurtured the Phaseless Bird into a Sword Plume Sea Eagle so that it could carry bricks better. Large-range AoE skills were convenient for harvesting dimensional life forms in the Dimensional Rift and quickly accumulating resources. The more he thought about it, the more he felt he knew the truth. The Sea Demon Snake was one of the strongest Feys in the same grade as the Class 5 Creation Master, Bamboo Monarch. However, the word strongest also made the Sea Demon Snake pay double the price. After the Spirit Chi Professional contracted the Sea Demon Snake, the price would be transferred to the Spirit Chi Professional. Every time the Sea Demon Snake grew a new head, it would require double the resources of the Fey of the same grade to allow the Sea Demon Snake to continue growing. Duan He's main Fey was a Myth-Eye Six-Headed Sea Demon Snake. In other words, the resources that Duan He had invested in the six-headed sea demon snake could nurture 6 other Suzerain/Myth-Eye Feys. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up. On the one hand, Duan He's main Fey was very powerful. If Lin Yuan could take Duan He under his command, it would be the same as taking in a member. He might not be invincible in the same grade, but he would be a very powerful and capable general. On the other hand, since the Suzerain/Myth-Eye Six-Headed Sea Demon Snake was so difficult to nurture, Duan He should be very poor. That was great. The better. Lin Yuan was afraid that Duan He was not poor. The poorer Duan he was, the more resources he needed. Lin Yuan was also very happy. While talking to Wen Yu, Lin Yuan had already planted the cinnabar sweet osmanthus in the pit dug by the source sand. When the cinnabar sweet osmanthus was planted in the soil, the petals on the branches had already fallen to the ground. They left a ground full of fallen petals. Even the morning air was filled with the sweet fragrance of osmanthus. Wen Yu quickly took a flower broom and began to sweep the osmanthus on the ground. She said, "Young master, with this cinnabar sweet osmanthus, our return from faraway manor can also brew osmanthus honey in the future." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan revealed a bright smile. "That's right. This cinnabar sweet osmanthus is about to reach platinum. I wonder if the cinnabar sweet osmanthus will be able to create a new life for itself after its core has been plucked. I wonder if it will create a new life for itself after it advances to the platinum level." Wen Yu knew that Lin Yuan wanted to nurture this cinnabar sweet osmanthus. She thought for a moment and said, "Young master, I'll go to the Leaning Moon Mountain later and bring back more vegetation spring water to carefully water this cinnabar sweet osmanthus." As soon as Wen Yu finished speaking, she saw a crystal bottle and an ordinary paper item appear in Lin Yuan's hand. Wen Yu was a creation master, so she could recognize at a glance that this paper item was an elemental source type life form, paper elemental. When she looked at the viscous amber-like liquid in the crystal bottle in Lin Yuan's hand, Wen Yu's body could not help but tremble. The amber-like liquid in the bottle was the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar that had redeemed her with just one drop, allowing her to firm her path and obtain a new life. Wen Yu's heart trembled fiercely when she saw Lin Yuan's hand handing over the items. That paper elemental source type item was fine, but this bottle of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar had at least 200 drops. A drop of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar was already priceless. This small bottle was something that pinnacle factions could not obtain even if they went to the Leaning Moon Mountain and begged the Moon Empress for a year. When Wen Yu didn't take it, Lin Yuan said, "Let's go. The elemental source type item, paper element, is more suitable for you. Also, this bottle of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar can completely wash away the impurities on your body. After the impurities are washed away, you can contract the paper elemental source type item. After that, I'll have a good night's sleep. I'll have enough energy to stay up all night." Wen Yu looked at Lin Yuan with an inexplicable emotion in her eyes. After taking a deep breath and taking the things in Lin Yuan's hand, Wen Yu spoke generously. "Many thanks, young master." The sun had already risen. As usual, Wen Yu summoned the source-type Earth Surge Golden Lotus and accompanied it to bask in the sun. Lin Yuan also went straight to the kitchen and checked the soup that Lu Jie had made for him. Lu Jie usually used a pot of soup in the kitchen when he cooked. Every time he used up some of the soup, Lu Jie would add some new soup. The soup that Lin Yuan had cooked in this pot for the whole night was the soup that Lu Jie had made for him last night with some specific ingredients. This pot of soup was also a small cheat that Lin Yuan had made for himself since he had not cooked for a long time and was somewhat rusty in cooking. Wen Yu tightly held the crystal bottle and the paper elemental source type item in her hand. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew. First update, seeking monthly votes, recommendation votes. Come on Motherland. Immortal heroic soul. End of this chapter. Chapter 594. This gust of wind blew down quite a few osmanthus flowers. One of the osmanthus flowers happened to fall into Wen Yu's hair. Wen Yu removed the cinnabar sweet osmanthus flower from her head. She suddenly discovered that this small osmanthus flower actually had quite a few faint lines on it. Even though the flower had already fallen from the tree, every pattern on the flower was engraved with the growth of the tree. Looking at the flowers and the paper elemental source type item in her hand, Wen Yu had a dream. He recited softly, "I hope that I can turn into a piece of white paper and engrave all the marks about you and Sky City." Wen Yu's words were very light, but the wind was very strong. Perhaps only the cinnabar sweet osmanthus, who was against the wind, could hear these words. "If I were a piece of paper, the front of the paper would be a declaration, and the back would be a secret." Wen Yu's voice was a lot louder, but before she could finish her sentence, When Yu entered a state of epiphany, and a transparent paper-like willpower rune appeared in her mind. The spiritual energy around Wen Yu was swirling and dancing rapidly. Xian Yu reached out her chopsticks to pick up the dish on the plate. After carefully tasting it, she felt that the dish was extremely ordinary. However, his knife skills were very solid. It was just that each of these simple dishes had the taste of old soup. The taste of the soup could be said to be the finishing touch of the dish. It sublimated the taste of every dish. If it had been a year ago, someone would have come to MT Clear Moon to pay a New Year's visit and cook a home-cooked meal for the Moon Empress. Xian Yu wouldn't believe it even if she was beaten to death. The Moon Empress might not be a picky eater, but she was abnormally picky when it came to food. Ordinary dishes and cooking methods simply couldn't enter the Moon Empress' mouth. But now, when the Moon Empress was eating her home-cooked dishes, the smile on her face never disappeared. Even Song Yu's usual cold expression softened as she drank the soup Chu Si served her. With such a comparison, Xian Yu's original intention of accepting him as her disciple became even stronger. Suddenly, Xian Yu thought of a young girl that she had taught before. After the meal, the Moon Empress said to Lin Yuan, "Little Yuan, head to the outer realm on the 7th of the mystic moon. The spatial passageway will be ready before the 15th. There was still a long time before you went to the Divine Wood Federation of the On continent, so I didn't tell you. Now, I'm going to tell you very seriously that any continent in the outer realm is a completely different world from the Radiance continent. When you get there, you have to know how to be cold." Upon hearing the Moon Empress' words, Lin Yuan nodded seriously. "Teacher, don't worry. Back when he was in the Abyss Dimensional Rift, he had yet to understand the dangers of the outer realm. In the upgraded Water World Dimensional Rift, Lin Yuan had a deep understanding of what kind of attitude he should take to face the outer realm's factions. When the Moon Empress saw that Lin Yuan had listened to her, she continued speaking. "Do you want me to help you solve some of your other troubles?" While speaking, the Moon Empress' eyes surged with faint killing intent and coldness. When Lin Yuan heard the Moon Empress' words, he knew that she was referring to the Zheng family. This was because he currently did not have any other troubles. His master, the Moon Empress, had already asked him once. It was obvious that the Zheng family was about to make a move. Lin Yuan shook his head and smiled. "Teacher, if I can't hold on, I'll look for you." The Moon Empress reached out and gently rubbed the hair on top of Lin Yuan's head. She gently placed the flowing cloud beeswax-wrapped extreme token on Lin Yuan's neck. "I've already filled the extreme token with the Moonlight domain. If there's any danger, just activate it. Don't hesitate." Lin Yuan looked down at the extreme token hanging on his neck. He faintly felt that the current extreme token was a little different from before. However, Lin Yuan could not pinpoint exactly what was different. Unlike the joyous and harmonious atmosphere in the Radiant Moon Palace, the atmosphere in the Indigo Azure City's Zheng family's third lineage was abnormally tense. Zheng Jianglu and Zheng Wenbo stood at the side and looked at the cold-eyed youth sitting on the main seat. Even though the fire in the mansion was burning brightly, Zheng Jianglu and Zheng Wenbo still felt a chill from the bottom of their hearts. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's Bai Qinghu knelt on the ground with his head lowered, afraid of offending the noble sitting on the main seat. Bai Qinghu did not know how long he had been kneeling. While kneeling, Bai Qinghu did not dare to circulate his spiritual power, causing his king-class expert's legs to be numb from kneeling for a long time. "Umph!" A cold snort came from the nose of the young man on the main seat, causing Bai Qinghu, who was kneeling on the ground, to stiffen. The fear in his eyes became even more intense. The main reason Bai Qinghu came to the royal capital this time was that he didn't know why the third lineage of the Zheng family, which had been supporting the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce behind him and the others during this period, suddenly ignored him. After arriving, Bai Qinghu didn't expect to see the core members of the main family behind the three lineages of the Zheng family. The second young master of the Zheng family. If it were during normal times, Bai Qinghu would probably jump up in joy in his sleep if he could see someone like the second young master. But now that Bai Qinghu knew about the trouble caused indirectly by the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce, he wished he could crawl into a crack in the ground. She avoided the sinister gazes of Zheng Jianglu and his son. But compared to Zheng Jianglu and his father's sinister gaze, the second young master who didn't even look at him made Bai Qinghu even more fearful. Zheng Jianglu looked at Zheng Kaiyuan and said carefully, "Second young master, what do you think we should do?" When Zheng Kaiyuan heard Zheng Jiangliu's words, he slammed the table in front of him fiercely. He was so frightened that little Martin, who was in his arms, quickly burrowed into the loose sleeve of Zheng Kaiyan's creation master robe. "What should we do? It doesn't matter if your Zheng family's third lineage's Jiao Hansong is dead. But this young master's protector perished because of your Zheng family's third lineage's deaf and mute intelligence. Your Zheng family's third lineage still wants to ask me what to do?" At this time, Zheng Kaiyuan's tone was like that of a superior existence, bossing and reprimanding his subordinates. From his words, he didn't treat the Zheng family's third lineage, which was attached to the main family, as his own people. Zheng Wenba was already so frightened that he didn't dare to speak and shrunk behind Zheng Jianglu. Zheng Jiangliu's expression was ugly to the extreme. However, underneath that ugly expression, there was more fear. Zheng Jianglu spoke as though he had accepted his fate. "Second young master, I have already started to develop the resources in the coastal sea outside the Indigo Azure. By then, my third lineage will only take 20% of the business, and the remaining 80% will be second young masters." Zheng Kaiyuan's sharp eyes shot straight at Zheng Jianglu. A small coastal sea controlled by a small character like the listening heron chamber of commerce. Your third lineage has been planning for so long, but an unforeseen event actually occurred. Hee, it seems like your third lineage is hiding a lot of things from me. Zheng Jiangliu's body tensed up. How would our third lineage dare to hide anything from second young master? In the future, our third lineage will be under second young master's command. Second update, requesting for monthly votes and recommendation votes. There will be a third update later. End of this chapter. Chapter 595. Zheng Jianglu thought to himself. Only he and Jiao Hansong knew that the sea burial lotus flower was in the coastal sea controlled by the listening heron chamber of commerce. Everyone else had been dealt with by Jiao Hansong, and even Zheng Wenba wasn't aware of it. Since Jiao Hansong was dead, Zheng Jianglu was the only person who knew about it. Now that the sea burial lotus flower was gone, Zheng Jianglu knew that he had to swallow all his grievances as the only person who knew about it. Otherwise, if the second young master knew about the sea burial lotus flower's secret, he wouldn't let the three lineages off. The strongest member of the Zheng family's three lineages was Jiao Hansong. With Jiao Hansong's death, out of the four branches of the Zheng family that were originally neck and neck, the third branch had become the weakest. Zheng Jianglu had to find a reliable backer for the three lineages. Even if this backer was greedier than a ferocious tiger. Zheng Kaiyuan glanced at Zheng Jianglu. "Since the three lineages intend to rely on me, they just have to develop the resources in the coastal sea. Don't bother about anything else. As for the profits, I want 90%. When Zheng Jianglu heard this, he gritted his teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. Zheng Kaiyuan's cold face revealed a smile with killing intent as he looked sideways at Zheng Jianglu and asked calmly, "But does third uncle think that Kaiyuan's opinion isn't good?" Zheng Jiangliu's tightly clenched teeth trembled for a moment, so much so that his teeth tasted like blood. Zheng Jianglu pulled Zheng Wenba, who was behind him, to kneel on the ground and speak loudly. "Second young master's opinion is naturally the best." Zheng Jianglu, who was kneeling on the ground, had a faint guess in his heart. A few days ago, the cold moon had hung high in the sky, and the dense moonlight had shone on the coastal region outside Indigo Azure City. That location was exactly the same as the location where he had sent Jiao Hansong to intercept the youth. However, this guess was too terrifying, and Zheng Jianglu didn't dare to think too deeply about it. During this half a month, the Zheng family hadn't suffered any calamity. Zheng Jianglu felt that he was thinking too much. If the Zheng family really touched that existence in the sky, even the Miao family behind the Zheng family's second young master would be in trouble. He had burned the Miao family, a top force that could look down on the world, into a pile of withered grass at the end of autumn. When Zheng Kaiyuan heard Zheng Jiangliu's reply, he looked at Zheng Jianglu with disdain and ignored him. He turned to look at Bai Qinghu, who was kneeling there as much as possible to reduce his presence. The source is the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce actually has such a huge background. As he spoke, Zheng Kaiyuan's eyes flashed with a trace of seriousness. Although Zheng Kaiyuan was arrogant, he was not stupid. Zheng Kaiyuan had even personally looked for the Indigo Azure Guard's captain to understand the situation. In the end, the leader of the Indigo Azure Guard, Zheng Jianglu, personally went to inquire a few times and only left behind the 4-word Sky City. Zheng Kaiyuan had no idea how powerful Sky City was. Zheng Kaiyuan did not dare to underestimate Yi Shiwen's ability to kill 2 Emperor-level combatants in a single conflict. Bai Qinghu never thought that the second young master of the Zheng family would actually condescend to speak to him. However, rather than saying that the second young master was talking to him, it was more like he was talking to himself. Bai Qinghu, who thought that he had a good understanding of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, did not dare to interrupt at all. Just as Bai Qinghu was at a loss, he did not expect to be called out by Zheng Kaiyuan. Third uncle said that you're called Bai Qinghu? That's quite an imposing name. Since you're looking for third uncle to pull resources, I don't care if third uncle gives you resources or not. I can help you. Are you interested? Bai Qinghu, whose legs were numb from kneeling, thought that he was doomed. He didn't expect that a surprise would fall on his head. Bai Qinghu's eyes lit up as he hurriedly replied, I'm willing, my lord. I'm willing, my lord. If my lord is willing to help the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce, I'll do anything. Zheng Kaiyuan tapped his fingers on the armrest of the main seat and said softly, now that the dimensional rift is active, any ferocious beast has to retract its claws. Now that the dimensional rift is active, all ferocious beasts will have to retract their claws. Otherwise, they won't have a good ending. However, the Zheng family can't do nothing. Bai Qinghu, if you want luxury resources, I'll give you luxury resources. You just have to use your means to force the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to lose everything. Bai Qinghu was stunned by this surprise and thanked Zheng Kaiyuan happily. Zheng Jianglu looked at Bai Qinghu with a rather complicated gaze. Bai Qinghu, who used to be like a pug in front of him, was different from the past after he had a relationship with the second young master and could sit face to face with him. But at the same time, Zheng Jiangliu's originally worried heart calmed down a lot. Although this matter was caused by the Zheng family's third lineage, it could be said that it had withdrawn from the vortex after giving up 90% of the shallow nearshore sea resources. Zheng Kaiyuan just had to develop the shallow nearshore sea resources and earn as much as possible. All the trouble was taken over by the second young master. Listening to the second young master's words, he was ready to fight to the end with the faction behind the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. After spending the new year in the Radiant Moon Palace, they did not return to the mansion until noon on the first day of the new year. After returning to the mansion, they had a reunion dinner and were going out to stroll around the New Year's fair in the afternoon. He did not expect it to snow for the first time after the new year. It was snowing heavily, like goose feathers, turning the entire capital white. The verdant plants in the return from faraway mansion, including the red cinnabar sweet osmanthus in front of the mansion, were also covered with a thick layer of snow. When everyone saw that the snow was getting heavier, they dispelled the idea of strolling around the New Year's fair together. Instead, they made all kinds of exquisite pastries with Lujia. Upon seeing the goose feather-like snow falling from the sky, Lin Yuan felt that this snow was a good omen. Cold snow contains good intentions, and warm spring brings happiness and happiness. Auspicious snow indicates a fruitful year. May everything go well in the new year. Chu Xi had always been a quiet person, but she could not sit still at this moment. She kept thinking about going to the All-Star game tomorrow. Lin Yuan felt that she was more lively than genius and chimey combined. He watched as Chu Xi wandered around him, drawing circles around him. He knew that Chu Xi must have something to say to him. He reached out and patted the empty spot on the sofa. Stop spinning. I'm getting confused. What can't you say to me directly? Upon hearing that, Chu Xi sat down beside Lin Yuan and said with a chuckle, That's right. Brother, there might be a challenge at the All-Star game tomorrow. I have a feeling that I will be chosen. That's why I want to let the Vajra butterfly become a fantasy breed today. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan stretched out his hand and lovingly pinched Chu Si's nose. When did you become so superstitious? You still believe in your sixth sense? I still feel that I will be chosen. For more, seeking monthly votes and recommendation votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 597. After saying that, Lin Yuan hung up the phone. Lin Yuan had told Duan He his idea of roping in Duan He now. It was because he wanted to use a psychological game, the 1,000 Layers game. He would first let Duan He be mentally prepared and weigh the pros and cons. If Duan He had no intention of joining Sky City, then no matter what he did, his goal of roping in Duan He would not succeed. On the contrary, if Duan He had the intention of joining Sky City, in this way, he would be able to increase his bargaining chips layer by layer in order to achieve Duan He's psychological expectations. He would let Duan He join his faction, Sky City. This was the essence of the 1,000 Layers game. Lin Yuan got up from the water rhinoceros leather sofa and logged into Star Web. He arrived at the purchase with no loss store and waited for Duan He's arrival. At that moment, Lin Yuan, who was waiting for Duan He's arrival, frowned and pondered what kind of chips he could add to the matter of roping in Duan He. Not long after Lin Yuan sat down in his Star Web store, Duan He's figure walked into the door. Upon seeing Duan He, the corners of Lin Yuan's mouth curled into a smile. Since Duan He was here, it meant that his 1,000 Layers game was already half successful. At least, Duan He still decided to come after knowing his purpose, which meant that Duan He already had intentions in his heart. Even if Duan He refused in his heart, he did not refuse to the end. There was still room for negotiation. Duan He looked at Lin Yuan and found that Lin Yuan looked the same as when he had seen him on the deserted island outside Indigo Azure City. He still wore the strange mask with the majestic Sky City pattern on his face. There were only Lin Yuan and Duan He in the store, so Duan He walked up to Lin Yuan and said, "My lord, my nephew said that he was in seclusion." "Sir, what my nephew said was nonsense. I don't know how this child managed to eavesdrop on our conversation," said Wang Yao. Lin Yuan shook his head and said generously, "I don't care about this kind of thing. I don't care about this kind of thing. No one will believe me even if I tell them. Here are 10 wind-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls with 98% purity. The price is according to our agreement. 2 source-type items for 1. Duan He felt a little pained, but he was very agile. He quickly took out 20 source-type items and was ready to trade with Lin Yuan. Among these 20 source-type items, 3 had just been taken out by Duan He from the Class 3 Water World Dimensional Rift. Even though Duan He felt very pained. However, it had to be said that Lin Yuan's transaction price was already considered cheap as compared to buying from other Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters. At the very least, he wouldn't have to help Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters search for spiritual ingredients that were extremely difficult to gather and waste so much time and effort. He looked at the 20 source-type items that Duan He handed over. Lin Yuan did not take it immediately. Instead, he spoke seriously. "Senior Duan He, if you're willing to join Sky City, you won't have to pay any price for these 10 wind attribute heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls." When Duan He had heard Lin Yuan's recruitment, he had subconsciously rejected it and felt slightly stirred. Duan He knew that Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple. Joining Lin Yuan's faction would undoubtedly shorten the distance between him and the Moon Empress. However, joining a faction would not only bring benefits, but also responsibilities. He would also have many companions whom he could entrust his life to. What Duan He hated the most was the feeling of his companion dying in front of him. Otherwise, Duan He wouldn't have left the spirit guards so resolutely after one mission. He chose to become a freelance spirit chi professional. Therefore, Duan He had already made up his mind to continue the transaction. When Lin Yuan saw that Duan He didn't take back his hand, he knew that his first layer of pie had not worked. Therefore, Lin Yuan threw out his second layer of pie. "Senior Duan He, if you join Sky City, as long as you comprehend a willpower rune, Sky City will provide the most suitable bronze phase for you according to the willpower rune you have comprehended." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Duan He shook his head again. He had indeed just comprehended a willpower rune. However, to Duan He, a suitable bronze fei could be found as long as he spent some money and time. At the level of an emperor-class expert, the real difficulty was no longer thinking about how to find a suitable bronze fei. Instead, it was how to nurture a high-quality bronze fei into a myth breed. After all, Duan He only needed to trouble an advanced Class 4 creation master to order a high-quality bronze fei that was suitable for his willpower rune. Seeing that Duan He still wanted to refuse, Lin Yuan waved his hand and summoned the 2 pots of bronze/legend golden peonies that he had just entered into the star web. The moment Lin Yuan summoned the 2 luxurious and gorgeous golden peonies, Duan He's eyes immediately widened. Duan He thought that the high-quality bronze fei that Lin Yuan mentioned would at most be at bronze/epic. He didn't expect that Lin Yuan was actually talking about a bronze/legend fei. Duan He could find a suitable bronze/epic fei, but he couldn't find a suitable bronze/legend fei no matter what. When a pinnacle Class 4 creation master nurtured a fei, there was a very small probability that they could nurture a bronze/legend fei. To a certain extent, nurturing a bronze/legend fei was already within the scope of a Class 5 creation master. Duan He asked himself. The 3 Class 5 creation masters were the Moon Empress, the Bamboo Monarch, and the Chef Supreme. No matter which one of them it was, he didn't have the qualifications to visit them. Moreover, he couldn't get any of them to help him tailor-make a fei that was suitable for a willpower rune. Upon seeing Lin Yuan offer practical benefits, Duan He's throat moved. Duan He couldn't refuse no matter what. When Lin Yuan saw Duan He's current state, he knew that the second layer of pie he had thrown out had already reached Duan He's psychological expectations. However, it wasn't enough for Duan He to immediately make the decision to join Sky City. It was very normal for any faction to spend a lot of resources to recruit experts. Even those rising factions that didn't have a rich foundation would promise plenty of benefits to the king-class experts when recruiting them. Only then would the king-class experts be willing to serve the faction. Moreover, Lin Yuan was currently recruiting an emperor-class expert with a rather outstanding main fei. Therefore, Lin Yuan was willing to pour in resources for Duan He. If Duan He could join a faction, the more resources Lin Yuan poured in for Duan He, the stronger Duan He would become. It was a win-win situation for both Duan He and Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and didn't talk nonsense with Duan He. He immediately threw out his 3rd layer of pie. Second update, asking for monthly and recommended votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 598. I heard that Senior Duan He has been running around collecting spiritual ingredients because you have a sea demon snake among your contracted feis. I wonder if Senior Sea Demon Snake is still a suzerain/myth I 6-headed sea demon snake? If it is, I'm sure that even if Senior works hard every day to collect resources, it will only be enough to deal with the 6-headed sea demon snake's consumption. Senior, you might be able to advance the 6-headed sea monster snake to Myth 2, but once the 6-headed sea monster snake reaches Myth 2, it will grow a new head and become a 7-headed sea monster snake. A 7-headed sea demon snake needs a large amount of law power to evolve from Myth 2 to Myth 3. Where is Senior Duan He going to find the law power to evolve 7 suzerain/Myth 2 phase to Myth 3? Duan He was not surprised that Lin Yuan knew his information very well. Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple. As long as he wanted to know, the entire Radiance sect had no secrets to him. It was rumored that the Radiant Moon Palace's hidden moon pavilion had more secrets than the Spirit Guard's Sihan library. So far, Duan He's biggest headache was nurturing the sea demon snake. The sea demon snake had already reached the pinnacle of suzerain/myth I, and Duan He had put in countless years of hard work. Duan He had not been idle at home for a single year. He had been so busy every day. At that moment, Duan He heard Lin Yuan continue to speak. Senior, if you can get a law crystal after joining Sky City, you can give it to me. I can provide you with the pure law power in the law crystal. Lin Yuan immediately threw out his 3rd layer of pie. This was the last layer of pie that he had prepared for Lin Yuan. If Duan He still did not agree after this layer of pie was thrown out, Lin Yuan would really have no other choice. Of course, if Duan He agreed, it would be great news for Lin Yuan. On one hand, Sky City would gain a capable general and increase its high-end combat power. On the other hand, Duan He would find the law crystal and give it to Lin Yuan to obtain the pure law power. He was also working for the sacred sword-wielding queen, the sacred source life form that he had formed a contract with. Duan He was stunned when he heard Lin Yuan's words. After a while, he murmured in disbelief. Is what Sir said true? Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan looked at Duan He and nodded solemnly. Of course I can't lie. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's answer, Duan He immediately withdrew the 20 source-type items in his hand. He called Lin Yuan Young Master, in a very straightforward manner. Young Master, may I know what kind of oath I need to make with a willpower rune to join Sky City? Duan He was overjoyed. Bronze/Legend phase weren't just within the scope of Class 5 Creation Masters, even Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters could do it. In that case, only Class 5 Creation Masters could purify the power of law from the law crystal. The 3 Class 5 Creation Masters, be it the Moon Empress, the Bamboo Monarch, or the Chef Supreme, were all extremely powerful. The purified rule force was all consumed internally, and not a trace of it would flow to the outside. This was also one of the reasons why every Class 5 Creation Master had such great authority and was revered by the world. Even if Emperor-class experts who were stronger than him joined a top faction, they wouldn't be able to obtain something like pure rule force. They could only comprehend the law at a deeper level by themselves when their contracted suzerain phase reached suzerain/myth 2. Or they could find a law crystal of the same attribute as their contracted phase to absorb. Of course, letting a Fae absorb the energy in such a law crystal of the same attribute would never be comparable to pure rule force. Lin Yuan was offering such benefits as long as Duan He wanted to go further on the path of a combat class spirit chi professional. Duan He simply couldn't open his mouth to refuse Lin Yuan's offer. Upon hearing Duan He's straightforward agreement, Lin Yuan said, "Senior, you just need to swear with a law rune and become my and Sky City's guardian." Senior, you just need to swear an oath with a law rune and become my and Sky Castle's guardian. If Lin Yuan insisted on making him a servant, Duan He wouldn't agree even if he coveted Lin Yuan's offer. If Lin Yuan insisted on making him a servant, Duan He wouldn't agree even if he coveted the pie that Lin Yuan was offering. If Lin Yuan insisted on making him a servant, Duan He wouldn't agree even if he coveted Lin Yuan's offer. This might not work for all king-class experts. However, it was an ironclad rule for Duan He. It was this ironclad rule that allowed Duan He to always weigh and choose when faced with temptations. Duan He pondered for 3 minutes before looking straight at Lin Yuan and asking, "I know what to do as your guardian. I know how to be your protector, but what about being the protector of a faction?" In Duan He's eyes, Lin Yuan was the leader of Sky City's faction. As Duan He's guardian, he had to listen to Lin Yuan's orders. Thus, in Duan He's opinion, becoming Lin Yuan's guardian was equivalent to becoming Sky City's guardian. Upon hearing Duan He's words, Lin Yuan replied bluntly, "As Sky City's guardian, you have to protect every blade of grass, every tree, and everything in Sky City, even if you die. And I can make you stronger." When Lin Yuan said this, his expression was very serious. He was not as approachable as usual. Instead, he had a superior aggressiveness. Lin Yuan had thrown out so many good things to get Duan He to join Sky City, not to raise a boss. Therefore, he had to say the ugly words first. At the same time, as Lin Yuan had grown over the past 6 months, he had a clearer understanding of this world and his own abilities. If Duan He could find enough law crystals, not to mention Lin Yuan's creation master abilities, just the sacred source life form, the sacred sword embracing queen, would be able to form a contract with him. It was enough to raise Duan He's suzerain/myth I 6-headed sea demon snake. If Duan He had the confidence to let the sea demon snake survive the creation tribulation, the sacred sword embracing queen could even let the 6-headed sea demon snake ascend to the creation breed, the 9-headed sea god snake. Apart from his identity as the Moon Empress disciple, Lin Yuan still had the confidence to say such words to Duan He. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Duan He felt relieved. Since he had joined a faction, in Duan He's opinion, Protecting every blade of grass and tree of this faction was what a faction member should do. Duanhe bent down and bowed to Lin Yuan. Young master, I can't swear with the law rune on Star Web, but I've decided to join Sky City and become young master's guardian. The end of this chapter. Chapter 599. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan's face revealed a sunny smile. Lin Yuan's instantaneous change made Duanhe feel that although he could not see the face behind the mask, he was like a sunny youth. At that moment, Duanhe heard Lin Yuan suddenly say, I just said to protect everything in the faction and protect everything in Sky City. You're not the only one who needs to do it. I'm the same. While speaking, Lin Yuan thought of Lu Jie and Zhou Luo, who had stepped forward bravely in the evolving water world dimensional rift. Lin Yuan smiled and said softly, I will also do my best to protect everyone in Sky City. I will also do my best to protect everyone in Sky City. Lin Yuan's voice was very soft. However, in Duanhe's ears, he could very well feel Lin Yuan's faith and the weight contained in these words. Although Duanhe still did not understand Sky City's faction. Based on the words of Lin Yuan, who was at the helm of the faction, Duanhe knew that Sky City would at least be a faction with a human touch tomorrow. Lin Yuan did not expect himself to have such a feeling. Even if it was the establishment of a faction as the helm, he indeed had to bear more than others. Lin Yuan stood up and said to Duanhe, Senior Duanhe, if you have time, come directly to the royal capital. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Duanhe stretched out his hand and awkwardly touched the stubble on his chin. Young master, I want to take advantage of the active period of the dimensional rift to get more resources. My six-headed sea demon snake and thunderwave sky rumbling snail still need half of the spiritual ingredients to promote to Myth 2. Lin Yuan brushed his hand over the huge flower of the legend gold petal peony and said with a smile. Since you've joined Sky City, apart from the law crystals, Sky City will be responsible for the materials needed for the phase evolution. The allegiance of an Emperor-class expert was not as easy to obtain as that of a King-class expert. As long as an Emperor-class expert joined any faction, even the top factions would treat them as distinguished guests. The faction itself would be responsible for the Emperor-class expert's daily expenses. Naturally, Lin Yuan would not be stingy. Regardless of whether it was the Zheng family or the extraterritorial divine Wood Federation's development, it was already time. With one more Emperor-class expert presiding over the royal capital, Lin Yuan would also have more bargaining chips to do things, and he would be more confident. Duanhe blinked. He originally thought that his benefits were the few points that Lin Yuan had just given him. In fact, Duanhe was already extremely satisfied with the pure power of the rules of order. I didn't expect Lin Yuan to be willing to bear the expenses for my phase evolution. It wasn't as if no veteran and top forces had approached him before. However, none of the veteran factions or top factions had the confidence to provide for the expenses of their phase evolution. Duanhe also understood that the resources needed to support him were equivalent to supporting several Emperor-level experts at the same time. For any force, it wasn't worth it to raise themselves. Happiness came too suddenly. Thinking that he would no longer have to run around in the wind and rain, Duanhe felt unprecedentedly relaxed. However, at the same time, Duanhe remembered that the source-type life-form phaseless bird that he had cultivated into a sword-plume seahawk in order to carry bricks seemed to be useless in the future. Duanhe felt that it was quite good. It seemed that in the future, the sword-plume sea eagles should be trained from group attack to group control. Lin Yuan did not feel too much pressure about raising Duanhe, who was a huge resource eater, in the future. Compared to Duanhe's strength among sane-grade experts, the resources that the sea demon snake needed to consume were not so important. In any case, the Spirit Lock spatial zone was constantly producing more and more heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. It just so happened that he could carry out positive consumption and use resources to enhance the strength of Sky City's top combat power. After finalizing the deal with Duanhe, Lin Yuan logged off Star Web. Duanhe immediately rushed to the royal capital from Indigo Azure City. With the Diamond X/Fantasy V Sword Plume Seahawk speed, It would only take Duan He slightly more than a day to reach the royal capital from Indigo Azure City. It just so happened that on the third day of the Lunar New Year, Duan He would be able to arrive and sign a contract with Lin Yuan. When Lin Yuan came out of the room, the banquet was already on the table. In addition to all kinds of dishes, there was also a square jade plate with a diameter of about 1 meter in the middle of the table. There were all kinds of pastries on the plate. Only a small portion of the pastries were very dexterously made, and the various small fays were vivid and lifelike. Obviously, these lifelike ones were made by Lu Jie, and the rest of the crooked ones were made by others. After being steamed, these crooked pastries were almost indistinguishable. Chu Ci, the mother of Bloodbath, and Endless Summer were trying their best to identify which pastries they had made. However, they could not distinguish it no matter how hard they tried. When Lin Yuan saw Wen Yu, he found that her spirit, energy, and spirit had undergone an earth-shattering change. She must have finished consuming the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar and washed away the impurities in her body. After a while, Listen and Zhou Luo also returned from outside and sat at the dining table. It could be said that now was the time when the Return from Faraway Mansion had the most people. Every character on the feature wall was present. Lin Yuan thought for a moment and took out the large bottle of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar that he had left in the Fey storage box before the meal. Then he took 6 empty bowls and filled each bowl with honey syrup. He placed them in front of the mother of Bloodbath, Endless Summer, Lu Jie, Listen, Zhou Luo, and Hu Quan. Chu Ci, Wen Yu, and Lin Yuan had already consumed the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar and washed away the impurities in their bodies. Even if Lin Yuan had a lot of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, he could not bear to drink such precious things casually. Money is money, but good steel must be used on the blade's edge. When Chu Ci saw the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar that Lin Yuan had poured out, she immediately recalled what had happened after she had consumed the nectar. Just as he was about to say something, he saw that Hu Quan, who had been working on his craft, and Zhou Luo, who had just returned from outside, had already finished a bowl of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. After drinking the bowl of honey brew, Zhou Luo and Hu Quan couldn't help but extend their thumbs at Lin Yuan and sigh. "This honey is so delicious. Where did you buy it?" Wen Yu's eyelids twitched as she looked at Hu Quan and Zhou Luo, who were giving them thumbs up. For something like the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, no matter how much money you spent, you wouldn't even be qualified to see it. He was actually asked where he bought it. If the Leaning Moon Mountain was willing to sell this item, then the peak powers would probably start fighting over the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. Lin Yuan blinked. He didn't expect that they would finish the bowl of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar while he was twisting the jar. Lin Yuan hurriedly replied, "Uncle Hu, Brother Zhou, you two go to the bathroom in your room." First update, asking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 600. Before Lin Yuan could finish speaking, Zhou Luo and Hu Quan had already run to their rooms. Lu Jie looked at the bowl full of amber-colored liquid, and he recognized what was inside the bowl. When the insect queen was in danger, the bamboo monarch had given him a drop of silver auspicious gold luster cassia nectar. Although this drop of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar couldn't heal the insect queen's damaged foundation, it was enough to help the insect queen stall for a year. Otherwise, the insect queen would have died before Lu Jie could meet Lin Yuan. If that were the case, there wouldn't be a new student like Lu Jie. To the mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer, who were already myth-breed fays, the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar was even more beneficial. The secret of the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar cleansing the body's impurities was mainly to upgrade the genetic model, allowing the genetic model to reach the most perfect state. As compared to humans, Faye's genes were much more complicated. The mother of Bloodbath, Endless Summer, and Lu Jie returned to their rooms after drinking the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. Lin Yuan felt a little awkward. If he had known earlier, he would have taken out the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar after the meal. Only he, Chu Ci, and Wen Yu were left sitting at the table during the reunion dinner. After eating, Lin Yuan took out the 2 pots of golden petal peonies and placed them beside the water rhinoceros leather sofa. Hu Quan had already made them but had not used them. The glow-winged butterflies resting in the spirit-containing hibiscus on the red sandalwood longevity fish tank all flew up after sensing the aura of the peony. It danced around the bronze/legend golden petals peony. The glow-winged butterfly was usually very lazy at night. If it could not fly, it would absolutely not fly. Now with these 2 pots of golden peonies, the glow-winged butterfly became as lively at night as it was during the day. He knew that these glow-winged butterflies were also craving the golden peony's pollen. The 2 bronze/legend golden-petaled peonies had a lot of pollen, and even though the Vajra butterfly had become a fantasy breed, it would not be able to consume all of it. Lin Yuan did not continue to stop these glow-winged butterflies from picking the golden peony's pollen. The more Lin Yuan looked at these fluttering glow-winged butterflies, the more he felt that there was something wrong with one of them. When this glow-winged butterfly fluttered, the other glow-winged butterflies instinctively avoided it by half a meter. Just as Lin Yuan was about to use true data to check this glow-winged butterfly's attributes, Chu Ci said, "Lin Yuan, I'm done eating. I'll wait for you in the training room." As soon as Lin Yuan heard that, he no longer cared about this rather unusual glow-winged butterfly. Instead, he said directly, "Let's go together after I'm done eating. Before I go, I'll collect the metal and wood dual attribute pollen that the Vajra butterfly needs to advance into a fantasy breed." After saying that, Lin Yuan took out a wooden box and gently patted each of the blooming peonies. He collected the pollen from each peony into a box. The golden pollen was full of vitality and covered the bottom of the box. He took the box and pulled Chu Ci toward the training room. So far, Chu Ci's phase could be said to have been created by Lin Yuan. Therefore, he was looking forward to the exclusive skill that would appear after the Vajra butterfly became a fantasy breed. As for the burning sunflower, Lin Yuan didn't have any expectations. This was because the burning sunflower was a fairy source-type life form, and its abilities were enough to construct Chu Ci's combat system. In Lin Yuan's opinion, what kind of exclusive skills and characteristics would appear would just be icing on the cake. In the training room, Lin Yuan summoned the bronze/legend Vajra butterfly. The bronze/legend Vajra butterfly had stayed with Lin Yuan for a long time. As soon as it saw Chu Ci, it immediately flew to her side. It flew back and forth intimately around Chu Ci. Sometimes, it would stop between Chu Ci's fingers, and sometimes, it would stop at the tip of her nose, making her giggle. Lin Yuan had also contracted a butterfly species life form, and it was qualified to compete for the top 10 most beautiful phase, the blue flash purple butterfly. However, the blue flash purple butterfly was usually very cold. Although Lin Yuan could feel the deep fetters the blue flash purple butterfly had on him, it usually did not interact with him. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the only thing in the world that could make the blue flash purple butterfly enthusiastic was probably the jasmine lily. It had been half a year since the blue flash purple butterfly hatched from its cocoon, and Lin Yuan had single-handedly raised it. However, he had no clue about the blue flash purple butterfly's willpower rune that was suitable for all his phase. He recalled that Chu Ci had looked at the Vajra butterfly and comprehended a willpower rune suitable for the Vajra butterfly. He planned to stare at the blue flash purple butterfly whenever he had the time and see if he could comprehend a willpower rune that was suitable for the blue flash purple butterfly. After playing with the Vajra butterfly for a while, Chu Ci summoned the willpower rune she had comprehended from the Vajra butterfly. This was not the first time Lin Yuan had seen this willpower rune. This willpower rune gave off an abnormally heavy feeling, as if it was a sturdy shield. However, behind this heavy feeling, there seemed to be an indomitable aura hidden. Lin Yuan faintly felt that this willpower rune exuded a faintly discernible sense of recklessness. Lin Yuan placed the wooden box of dual attribute pollen on the table in the training room and said to Chu Ci, "Don't worry." He said to Chu Ci, "Let the Vajra butterflies suck the dual attribute pollen in the wooden box until you feel that the Vajra butterfly can't suck anymore. Use your willpower rune to combine with the Vajra butterfly and let it evolve into a fantasy breed." This was not the first time Chu Ci had a fantasy breed fae, But compared to the previous time, she was even more nervous this time. After embarking on the path of a spirit chi professional, Chu Ci, who was usually obsessed with combat training, understood the importance of exclusive skills and ability combinations better than her peers. Although Chu Ci was nervous, she did not panic at all when commanding the Vajra butterfly. When the Vajra butterfly absorbed a small portion of the pollen in the wooden box, its abdomen had already swelled up. A layer of golden halo kept spreading from its abdomen, dyeing the Vajra butterfly's body, which was originally cyan steel, with a faint layer of gold. Chu Ci sensed the Vajra butterfly's state. The moment the Vajra butterfly's body was completely dyed with gold, she controlled the willpower rune to meet the Vajra butterfly. The Vajra butterfly combined with this heavy willpower rune that hid an indomitable aura. In an instant, a layer of dense metallic halo lit up. Immediately after, Lin Yuan saw this dense metallic halo constantly shrink. Suddenly, a layer of green, watery luster lit up in the center of the metallic halo. The moment this layer of green watery luster lit up, Lin Yuan's heart was at ease. It seemed that there were no problems in the process of the Vajra butterfly becoming a fantasy breed. The second was even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 601. Lin Yuan had been a little worried at the beginning that Chu Ci's Vajra butterfly would not evolve in the direction of the jadeite butterfly. If the Vajra butterfly wanted to evolve in the direction of the jadeite butterfly, there were requirements in the combination of willpower runes. The willpower rune needed to have the verdant intent comprehended from plants. However, Chu Ci's willpower rune had been comprehended from observing the Vajra butterfly itself. To Chu Ci, the willpower rune comprehended from the Vajra butterfly was undoubtedly the most suitable for the Vajra butterfly itself. Now that the Vajra butterfly was still evolving in the direction of the jadeite butterfly, it was a cause for celebration. Lin Yuan had chosen the metalwood dual attribute pollen to match Chu Ci's metal-textured willpower rune. It was also because the wood attribute in the pollen could replace the touch of verdant intent in the willpower rune during the Vajra butterfly's evolution. It would have a positive impact during the Vajra butterfly's metamorphosis and evolution. Before Lin Yuan could compose himself for 10 seconds, a voice suddenly rang out. Just as the emerald green radiance was about to expand, the yellow radiance suddenly pierced through the emerald green radiance. The yellow light kept expanding, dispersing the outer metal luster in the blink of an eye. Lin Yuan shook his head. Due to the willpower rune, the Vajra butterfly had not completely evolved in the direction of the jadeite butterfly. However, the emerald light at the beginning showed that the Vajra butterfly was indeed evolving in the direction of the jadeite butterfly at the beginning. The current process could be said to be a mutation in the process of the Vajra butterfly's evolution into the jadeite butterfly. As the yellow, watery luster shimmered, it suddenly became transparent. This kind of permeability was very similar to the permeability of high-quality yellow jades. At that moment, a palm-sized yellow butterfly flew out of the halo and landed directly between Chu Ci's fingers. Lin Yuan saw that this yellow butterfly's body was full of moisture, and every part of its body seemed to be carved from lustrous jade. There were also many golden patterns on the light wings. Upon closer inspection, these patterns somewhat resembled the flowers of a peony with golden petals. If the previous Vajra butterfly looked like an ordinary piece of steel, then the current Vajra butterfly was a precious jade that would fascinate people just by looking at it. When he had checked the Vajra butterfly's evolution plan, he had seen the emerald jade butterfly's image. The only difference between the Vajra butterfly and the jadeite butterfly, which was a fantasy breed, was its color and the additional peony patterns on its body. From the quality of the wings, Lin Yuan was certain that his previous thoughts were correct. The Vajra butterfly had indeed mutated on the path of evolving into the jade butterfly. He did not guess too much and used Morbius True data to check the attributes of the Vajra butterfly after it had become a fantasy breed. Fey name, yellow jade golden butterfly, spirit species, chrysalis/chrysalis, Fey grade, bronze, 10/10, Fey type, metal, Fey quality, fantasy eye skills frowny face wing block, condenses a hard metal on the wings to block. When blocking, there is a certain chance that the blocked force will be reflected back. Gold Jade Shield quickly attaches to the target and condenses a solid yellow jade shield that can follow the target's movements. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Counterattack Tremor. When attacked, a portion of the damage will be reflected back in the form of an energy tremor, regardless of whether it is a physical attack or a magical attack. Shield Explosion Counterattack. Shatter all the shields on the target and condense the greatest attack that the shield can withstand into one strike, causing huge damage. After checking the attributes, Lin Yuan found that the Vajra butterfly's name had become the Yellow Jade Golden Butterfly. Its quality had also changed from the previous legend to Fantasy Eye. When he looked at the normal wing block, Lin Yuan found that the wing block, which originally only had a defensive effect, could now block damage. There was also a certain chance that the damage received would be reflected. It could be said that just this damage reflection effect made the Yellow Jade Golden Butterfly's normal wing block undergo an earth-shattering change. However, Lin Yuan's heart suddenly rang loudly. He felt that the damage reflection ability was a prelude to recklessness no matter how he looked at it. When he saw the Yellow Jade Golden Butterfly become a fantasy breed and its new exclusive skill, Shield Explosion Counterattack, Lin Yuan could not help but hold his forehead with his hand. He finally knew what was going on with the sharpness behind the shield-like heavy feeling in the willpower rune that Chu Ci had comprehended. The exclusive skill, Shield Explosion Counterattack, directly shattered all the shields and converted the shield's original damage resistance into attack power to launch a powerful blow. It was equivalent to sacrificing all the defensive abilities of a defense-type Spirit Chi professional and instantly becoming a power offense-type Spirit Chi professional. Moreover, the stronger the defense-type Spirit Chi professional, the more outstanding their attack power would be. As Lin Yuan watched the evolved Yellow Jade Golden Butterfly flutter in front of Chu Ci, he only felt more and more angry. He did not know whether Chu Ci's willpower had determined the Yellow Jade Golden Butterfly's evolution direction. Or was it the Yellow Jade Golden Butterfly's evolution fulfilling Chu Ci's wish? Lin Yuan felt that compared to him, an all-around Spirit Chi professional who wore the skin of a healing-type Spirit Chi professional, Chu Ci was more like a combat-type Spirit Chi professional. At this moment, Chu Ci was more like a combat-type Spirit Chi professional who wore the skin of a defense-type Spirit Chi professional. At this moment, he should be able to declare his Iron Bucket Sisters transformation plan bankrupt. The previous 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 3 o'clock had all been implemented very well. However, after Fine Steel became a Yellow Jadeite Golden Butterfly, all of his plans were put on hold. Even Lin Yuan's plan to modify the Iron Bucket's younger sister had died before he could implement it at 4 o'clock p.m. However, Lin Yuan had to admit that even if his plan to transform his Iron Bucket sister failed, he would not be able to do so. The Vajra Butterfly's exclusive skill, Shield Explosion Counterattack, was definitely powerful. In fact, just the exclusive skill, Shield Explosion Counterattack, had established Chu Ci's combat system as a defense-type Spirit Chi professional. The Jadeite Golden Butterfly and the luminous Iron Wild Bull were Chu Ci's contracted phase. The Obsidian Iron Wild Bull was reckless in the open, the Yellow Jadeite Golden Butterfly was reckless in secret, and Chu Ci was reckless in her heart. Lin Yuan simply did not know how to ridicule Chu Ci's boorish combination. Unlike Lin Yuan's melancholy, the more she looked at the Yellow Jadeite Golden Butterfly, the more she liked it. He could feel the Yellow Jadeite Golden Butterfly's second exclusive skill, Shield Explosion Counterattack. Chu Ci felt that there was simply no exclusive skill more suitable for her than the Shield Detonation Counterattack. Chu Ci said to Lin Yuan after thinking for a moment, "Lin Yuan, I need to choose more phase with shield-type abilities in the future." The third one. End of chapter. Chapter 602. Lin Yuan understood Chu Ci, so he understood why she had such an idea after hearing what she said. Chu Ci had such thoughts because she had sensed the Yellow Jadeite Golden Butterfly's exclusive skill, Shield Explosion. However, Chu Ci knew that as a girl, she had to protect herself. Even if it was for the sake of recklessness, Lin Yuan was still rather gratified. Lin Yuan looked at the yellow jadeite golden butterfly and said to Chu Ci, "Why don't I help you directly upgrade the yellow jadeite golden butterfly from bronze X/fantasy I to silver? This way, the yellow jadeite golden butterfly will also have an additional silver skill." Chu Ci shook her head and stuck out her tongue. "Little Wing has just become a fantasy breed. I want to do some actual combat on Star Web before advancing Little Wing's grade." Chu Ci was a practical fighter. She liked to train her Fey abilities and exclusive skills through actual combat. Lin Yuan nodded and looked at the peony patterns on the yellow jadeite golden butterfly's wings. At this level, the peony pattern on the yellow jadeite golden butterfly had not shown any effect yet. It only existed as a kind of decoration. However, after a Fey underwent a metamorphosis, every obvious change on its body wouldn't be that simple. Just like when Chimey had evolved into the Streamcloud Azure Bird, the cloud patterns that appeared on its body only showed their effects when it evolved into the Twilight Starbird. The peony pattern on the yellow jadeite golden butterfly should have the same effect as the cloud pattern on Chimey's wings. However, he could not help but ridicule her naming ability in his heart. The obsidian iron wild bull was called Little Iron Nugget, and the yellow jade golden butterfly was called Little Wings. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the obsidian iron wild bull might as well be called Black Dezhuang. As for the yellow jadeite golden butterfly, who had deceived his feelings, Lin Yuan expressed that he was too lazy to waste his brain cells to give it a name. Now that the emerald jade butterfly had completed its evolution, he wanted to let Chu Ci contract the fairy source-type life form, the burning sunflower. Lin Yuan raised his hand, and a coconut-sized, dark green cactus appeared in his hand. The spikes on the dark green cactus were not hard, and they would bend when pressed hard. Moreover, these spikes weren't prickly when held in his hands. They just looked a little scary. Black and red marks appeared on the dark green skin of the cactus. It was as if the dark green skin had been burned and corroded by a dark red substance, forming many scars on the surface. The body of the burning sunflower, which was shaped like a cactus ball, didn't look very beautiful. However, the two large flower buds on the top of the ball were faintly revealing scarlet petals that were exceptionally bright. It was as if it would blossom as soon as a condition was met. Lin Yuan placed the burning sunflower in front of Chu Ci. This is a fairy source-type life form. Its abilities are very compatible with your obsidian iron wild bull's silver abilities. You said that the obsidian iron wild bull's silver skills aren't easy to use. You don't have to worry about that now that you have the burning sunflower. Chu Ci looked at the cactus-shaped object and thought it was just an ordinary plant fey. However, he did not expect it to be a source-type life form. Although Chu Ci had become Zhang Yue's disciple, she spent most of her time training and improving her strength. He hadn't really broadened his horizons. Thus, she had never seen a fairy source-type life form known as a source item aristocrat. However, Chu Ci knew that source-type items had to meet certain requirements before they could be contracted. He asked Lin Yuan, "Lin Yuan, what do I need to do to contract the fairy source-type burning sunflower?" Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan placed the burning sunflower in her hand and said, "That's right. You can directly enter the contract. You don't need to do anything." Upon hearing that, she looked at the burning sunflower in her hand and understood that Lin Yuan must have dealt with this fairy source-type life form. Otherwise, ordinary source-type items would not have such a bronze phase aura. Chu Ci was not a creation master and could not understand the contract conditions of the burning sunflower. He did not understand what was so special about the burning sunflower that had the aura of a bronze fey. However, she knew that no matter what, her brother was always silently behind her back, thinking about his own life and helping him pave the way forward step by step. Chu Ci stretched out her hand and pressed her palm on the surface of the burning sunflower's thorns. He activated his mental energy and formed a contract with the burning sunflower. As Chu Ci used her mental energy to contract the burning sunflower, Lin Yuan saw that the dark red scars on the burning sunflower's body suddenly caved in. A large amount of crimson flames gushed out from within these scars. The moment these flames gushed out, Lin Yuan immediately felt like he was being roasted. It caused Lin Yuan to take 2 steps back. The crimson flames that gushed out of the burning sunflower's body were extremely invasive and completely engulfed the burning sunflower's body surface in the blink of an eye. The soft thorns on the burning sunflower's surface immediately became as red as blood after coming into contact with the crimson flames. Soon, the dark green plant-like flesh on the burning sunflower's surface was burned to nothing. Only the frame that was formed by the blood-red thorns was left. There was also a thin layer of crimson flames on the frame that formed a flame yarn. The two huge red flowers on the top had already bloomed the moment the scar collapsed. However, the crimson-red flowers were not like ordinary flowers, where every petal was in full bloom. Instead, the petals at the top kept curling inwards, and a few curled petals combined as if forming a shed. The petals at the bottom frantically extended downwards and were more than 3 times longer than the petals growing above. These slender petals that grew from the bottom combined and formed a hammock shape. Crimson flames gushed out of the flower center, making the entire flower look even redder and more crystalline. At that moment, a small figure was born in each of the flames at the center of the two flowers. It took less than 3 seconds for the figure to turn from transparent to solid. Lin Yuan saw that the two palm-sized figures had long, flame-like hair. They had pointed ears, jade-like skin, and every crimson pattern on their body was burning with a thin layer of flame yarn. These flame yarns also formed the clothes of the little fairies that were born in the flames. Lin Yuan knew that these two little fairies born in the burning sunflower should be the burning sunflower Gemini. This was also why the burning sunflower was called a fairy source-type life form. At that moment, a layer of crimson flames lingered around Chu Si's body, but she was not affected by the flames at all. Instead, the yellow jadeite golden butterfly put a layer of golden jadeite shield on her body to resist the corrosion of the scorching flames on her body. The first was even worse. End of this chapter. Chapter 603. Looking at the flames lingering around Chu Si, Lin Yuan knew that this was the fire elemental immunity she had after contracting the fairy source-type burning sunflower. Not far away from Chu Si was a bronze/epic usnea. This bronze/epic usnea had been specially enhanced by Lin Yuan for Chimey. Compared to the platinum celery vine that Chimey had been eating, it preferred the taste of the usnea. Therefore, Lin Yuan had conveniently placed this bronze/epic usnea in the training room as a decoration. Apart from Chimey, some omnivorous fays in the mansion, including Genius, would occasionally come to eat some leaves on the usnea vines. However, the leaves on the side of this bronze/epic usnea that was close to Chu Si were constantly shriveling. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan hurriedly moved the bronze/epic usnea in front of him. He took a piece of shriveled usnea leaf and saw that the originally plump and juicy usnea leaf had actually become a little shriveled. Lin Yuan had specially picked this usnea because its exclusive skill, Energy Juice, had appeared after reaching bronze. The exclusive skill, Energy Juice, was considered the most optimal exclusive skill that the usneas had evolved to make themselves more delicious. This was also the reason why this usnea was qualified to be evolved to bronze/epic by Lin Yuan. With Energy Juice, the usnea's leaves were especially plump and had a water-locking function that was far superior to ordinary usneas. Obviously, the thin and shriveled leaves were not only caused by the high temperature. Lin Yuan used true data to check on the burning sunflower that Chu Si had just contracted. Fey name: burning sunflower, Fey species. Apricot/Gemini, Fey grade. Normal, 1/10. Fey type: spiritual/source, Fey quality. Normal abilities: frowny face, burning flame. Increases the temperature of the burning sunflower Gemini's flames, and the flames have the effect of stripping away the water hidden in the depths. Lin Yuan's expression froze when he checked. The burning sunflower's normal ability, burning flame, could be considered a kind of enhancement to the burning sunflower Gemini's flames. At the same time, the flames around the burning sunflower Gemini also had the effect of stripping away the water hidden in the target's body. Lin Yuan did not attach much importance to the enhancement of the flames, as the burning sunflower's flame's temperature increase was itself a double-edged sword. While hurting the enemy, he was also hurting himself. However, the burning sunflower flame's effect of stripping away the moisture hidden deep within her body had little effect on her. First of all, as the burning sunflower's contractor, she was immune to its damage. The silver/fantasy obsidian iron wild bull was a lump of iron, even though its body could be injured. However, the obsidian iron wild bull's skin had been metallized a long time ago due to its constant consumption of metal. The obsidian iron wild bull was very resistant to the burning sunflower's flames, which stripped away the moisture in its body. For other fays, as long as they did not have a metallic skin like the obsidian iron wild bull, their skin would crack when the moisture was removed. If they were roasted by the burning sunflower's flames for a long time, even if they were not burnt by the flames, they would still die. When fays moved intensely during combat, their skin might be dehydrated, causing their muscles to tear. He felt that such an effect was even more vicious than some poison-type fays' toxic abilities. After Chu Ci contracted the burning sunflower, she was overjoyed. He summoned the obsidian iron wild bull with a wave of his hand. He patted its neck and said, "Don't worry, little iron chunk, you'll have another good partner in the future." Lin Yuan's eyelids twitched wildly. It's true that they're partners, but are they really good partners? After you have the burning sunflower, the obsidian iron wild bull will have to be prepared to be possessed by the burning sunflower and become a roasted cow. Lin Yuan, I feel that after contracting the burning sunflower, I seem to know how to structure my combat system. As Chu Ci spoke, the burning sunflower Gemini that were born from the flames also opened their eyes. After opening their eyes, the burning sunflower Gemini immediately kissed Chu Ci on the left and right. Then, they sat firmly on Chu Ci's shoulder. Fairy source-type lifeforms were favored by spirit chi professionals because they were very strong. On the other hand, it was because fairy source-type lifeforms were far more intelligent than other source-type lifeforms when they were contracted. Looking at the burning sunflower Gemini's behavior and the look in their eyes, this statement was indeed true. The burning sunflower Gemini's small hands were already constantly emitting sparks, which burned and exploded and made sounds. Lin Yuan found that the burning sunflower Gemini were already using his conversation with Chu Ci. They began to use the sound of the flames to simulate and learn the language. Chu Ci liked the burning sunflower Gemini very much. Whether it was their appearance or their small humanoid appearance, it was very easy for people to have a good impression of the burning sunflower Gemini. Moreover, the burning sunflower Gemini had learned how to act coquettishly to female spirit chi professionals in their mother's womb. Chu Ci, sit over there for a while. I'll help you raise the burning sunflower's grade. Later, you can choose an exclusive skill suitable for your bronze burning sunflower's combat system. When Chu Ci heard that Lin Yuan was going to enhance the burning sunflower, she hurriedly waited at the side for fear of disturbing him. Lin Yuan looked at Chu Ci hurriedly leaving and touched the back of his head. Other creation masters were afraid of disturbing, but Lin Yuan was not. Lin Yuan felt that Chu Ci had misunderstood his meaning. He was just afraid that Chu Ci would feel bored staying here. It was better to sit at the side for a while or bring the obsidian iron wild bull and the newly promoted fantasy breed yellow jadeite golden butterfly to familiarize themselves with each other. Lin Yuan took a deep breath and began to enhance the burning sunflower Gemini. In just a few minutes, the burning sunflower Gemini had been enhanced to elite by Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan looked at the burning sunflower Gemini's elite ability, distorted heat wave. The heat wave distortion was considered a defense-type ability. It was equivalent to a layer of high-temperature shield, and the energy in the high temperature offset the damage received to form a defensive effect. It was considered a very suitable ability for Chu Ci's combat style. Lin Yuan continued to enhance the burning sunflower. When the burning sunflower Gemini's grade was raised to elite/epic, Lin Yuan increased the speed of spirit chi conduction. He increased the speed of spirit chi conduction, allowing the burning sunflower Gemini to evolve from elite/epic to bronze. Lin Yuan found that he was even more nervous when enhancing Chu Ci's phase than when he was enhancing them. Lin Yuan did not immediately let Chu Ci come over after promoting the burning sunflower to bronze. Instead, he enhanced the burning sunflower to bronze X/epic before waving at Chu Ci in the distance. Chu Ci immediately ran over. When Chu Ci ran to his side, Lin Yuan checked the 3 exclusive skills that had appeared after promoting the burning sunflower to bronze. End of this chapter. Chapter 604. The 3 exclusive skills that appeared after reaching bronze were Frowny Face Surging Flames. The burning sunflower Gemini fuses together, instantly releasing all of the fire energy stored within the burning sunflower, dealing damage to all targets on the field. Gemini Enchantment. The burning sunflower Gemini can be attached to an item, adding the effects of the burning sunflower Gemini's own flames to the item, and the attached target will not be affected by the burning sunflower Gemini's flames. Gemini Protection. When the burning sunflower Gemini attaches itself to the target, it will burn away the target's life force and store the life force in the gem on its forehead. When attached to a target, it can inject the stored life force into the target's body. Upon seeing these 3 exclusive skills, Lin Yuan first excluded the Surging Heat Wave. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the exclusive skill, Surging Heat Wave, was considered a kind of burning sunflower's high-burst attack method, so its damage was naturally needless to say. However, this surging flame was not an ordinary eruption method. This was because the target of the surging flames was not just the enemy units, but everyone present. If Chu Ci chose this exclusive skill, she would probably not be able to escape the fate of being a star web host, Poison Beauty. No one would dare to team up with her again. As for the Gemini Enchantment and Gemini Guard, Lin Yuan was undoubtedly more inclined to the Gemini Guard. The Gemini Protector was equivalent to giving Chu Ci a portable blood bag. Moreover, it could be used on all of her fays, including the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull. Gemini Guard was equivalent to strengthening the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull's pain absorption and annihilation gaze. When he saw the burning sunflower's exclusive skill, Gemini Guard, Lin Yuan felt that his plan to transform his broken sister into a metal bucket hadn't completely failed. Because the Gemini Care had allowed the burning sunflower to make a guest appearance as a healing-type fae, it was the same as adding a layer of flames to Chu Ci's reflective iron bucket. He also added healing abilities internally. This allowed Chu Ci, a boorish fellow who wore the skin of a defense-type spirit chi professional, to have the ability to fight continuously. Even if the burning sunflower was actually a pyromaniac, and the healing ability was just a side effect. However, just this little bit of healing ability was enough to give her fighting prowess a qualitative change. Chu Ci checked the burning sunflower's 3 exclusive skills and said to Lin Yuan with certainty, "Lin Yuan, I want to choose Gemini Care." Lin Yuan had been a little hesitant at first. Although Gemini Care was very suitable for her, Gemini Enchantment was not bad either. If the burning sunflower Gemini could be enchanted on the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull's horns, it would undoubtedly increase the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull's combat power. However, Lin Yuan had not expected that Chu Ci's choice of the burning sunflower would be so clear and decisive. Chu Ci confirmed the burning sunflower's exclusive skill. Lin Yuan used True Data to check the burning sunflower's current attributes. Fey name, burning sunflower, spirit species, apricot/Gemini, Fey grade, bronze, 10/10, Fey type, spiritual/source, Fey quality, epic skills Frowny Face Scorching Flame, increases the temperature of the burning sunflower Gemini's flames, and the flames have the effect of removing the moisture hidden deep within. Distorted Heat Wave. When the burning sunflower Gemini attaches itself to a target, it will form a high-temperature heat wave around the target. When the heat wave takes damage, it will cancel out the energy within the heat wave to protect the target. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Gemini Protection. When the burning sunflower Gemini attaches itself to the target, it will take away the target's vitality through burning and store the vitality in the gem on the forehead. When it attaches itself to a target, it can inject the stored vitality into the target's body. Looking at the bronze X/epic burning sunflower's attributes, Lin Yuan did not expect that the burning sunflower, which he had thought would not bring any surprises, would actually bring him a great surprise. Instead, it brought him a great surprise. After this Fey enhancement, Chu Si's strength had increased by leaps and bounds, but this was not what Lin Yuan valued the most. What Lin Yuan valued was that Chu Si had already faintly formed a combat system at this stage. Lin Yuan instructed Chu Si, "Sleep early tonight. I still have to go to the venue to watch the all-star match tomorrow morning." Then he left the training room. Chu Si excitedly started to practice the cooperation between the obsidian iron wild bull, the yellow jadeite golden butterfly, and the burning sunflower Gemini in the training room. Lin Yuan returned to his room, leaned on the bed, and picked up his cell phone to check the messages. He found that the group chat with Zhang Xiaobai, Xing, Lu Pinru, and Tan Ran had been silent for the past few days. No one had sent any messages in the group chat since 3 days ago. The Extreme Guild Club's competition had clearly been held 4 days ago. He had also talked with Zhang Xiaobai, Xing, Lu Pinru, and Tan Ran about the situation of the Extreme Guild Club's competition against the Barbarian Snake Guild Club. Lin Yuan looked at Zhang Xiaobai's moments again. He saw that Zhang Xiaobai, who had always been flooding his moments, had not posted anything since he had posted a match cheer 4 days ago. Lin Yuan did not have many friends, so he was more attentive to them. The attentive Lin Yuan knew that Zhang Xiaobai, Xing, Lu Pinru, and Tan Ran should have encountered some problems. According to the time, the problem they had encountered was likely related to the Barbarian Snake Guild Club's competition. Lin Yuan was already lying on the bed. He looked at the time, sat up, and called Zhang Xiaobai. Just as he dialed, Lin Yuan only heard "The number you have dialed is not available." Lin Yuan then called Xing, Lu Pinru, and Tan Ran in turn and found the same situation. Lin Yuan suddenly remembered that Zhang Xiaobai had said in the previous chat. Zhang Xiaobai, Xing, and the others were members of the reserve team. Therefore, they were required to turn off their cell phones every night when they had a mock competition with the home team members, for fear of affecting the training of the home team members. When he had heard the rules, Lin Yuan could guess that the Extreme Guild Club's treatment of the reserve team members was not very good. Lin Yuan had even sensed something when he, Zhang Xiaobai, Xing, Lu Pinru, and Tan Ran had teamed up to collect the Jade Unicorn Viper's venom. This was because Zhang Xiaobai and the others were originally helping the club's home team members to collect spiritual ingredients. The remuneration they received was comparable to that of a normal Jade Unicorn Viper's venom. Furthermore, according to the team's rules, as a healing-type spirit chi professional, he had to take a portion of the remuneration from Zhang Xiaobai and the others. Tomorrow was the all-star match, and the Extreme Guild Club, a B-class club, was also invited to attend. As reserve team members, Zhang Xiaobai, Xing, Lu Pinru, and Tan Ran should also attend. Third, end of this chapter. Chapter 605. When the time came, he would just have to ask him face to face. Lin Yuan knew that Zhang Xiaobai, Xing, Tan Ran, and Lu Pinru were all strong-willed and would not easily speak up if they were in trouble. However, if a friend who had faced life and death with him was in trouble, he would take the initiative to help even if no one mentioned it. The meeting room of Dragon Gate Guild Club was brightly lit. Even during the new year, none of the Dragon Gate Guild Club members, from the main team members to the reserve team members, were absent. A few members of the reserve team sat up straight in their seats, their eyes shining brightly. He was obviously expecting something. On the other hand, a young girl was lazily lying on the table in the conference room, her hands under the table rubbing her stomach from time to time. The young man with a watermelon haircut next to the girl curled his lips and whispered, "Zhao Xiaochun, didn't I just eat barbecue with you? That's 30 whole roasted pig trotters, and all I got was a roasted corn. Even if you're not full, you don't have to act like you're hungry." Zhao Xiaochun rolled her eyes at Fang Duo and continued rubbing her stomach. After a while, she said weakly, "Fang Duo, you're really inhuman. Not only did you not fight to pay for a meal with a beautiful girl, but you even ate a roasted corn. If I could eat one more roasted corn, I might be full." Fang Duo stared at Zhao Xiaochun, dumbfounded. Was she speaking human language? At this moment, Fong Duo suddenly understood what Zhao Xiaochun had said to him in the evening. Accompany me for dinner. What did that mean? He felt that he had drawn the wrong point. The point was not to eat, but to accompany. He only needed to watch Zhao Xiaochun eat and accompany her the whole time. However, Fong Duo felt that even if he ate with Zhao Xiaochun, eating a roasted corn wouldn't be considered too much. In any case, even if he gave Zhao Xiaochun 50 more roasted corn, Zhao Xiaochun would still be dead. Long Tao sat on the main seat and could naturally hear the conversation between Fong Duo and Zhao Xiaochun. Long Tao helplessly patted the table and said, "All right, I'll make arrangements for tomorrow's all-star mash. If you haven't eaten your fill, you can go to Muxiang Residence tonight to try Muxiang Residence's signature dried pot beef ribs. Muxiang Residence's buffet is quite comprehensive and delicious." Fong Duo looked at Long Tao and blinked twice. She didn't know how the boss of Muxiang House had provoked Long Tao. If Zhao Xiaochun went to eat, wouldn't she bankrupt Muxiang House's buffet restaurant? It wasn't easy for the capital to have a buffet restaurant. When Zhao Xiaochun heard this, her eyes immediately lit up. He asked Long Tao, "Muxiang House? Why haven't I heard of it before? Where's the address?" Hearing Zhao Xiaochun's deadly 3 questions, Fong Duo could only let the owner of Muxiang Residence pray for his own good. Long Tao picked up his phone, pressed it twice, and waved it at Zhao Xiaochun. "I have already sent the address of Mu Xiangju to the group chat." Zhao Xiaochun immediately picked up her phone and her eyes lit up. She no longer looked weak and hungry. Fong Duo was also checking the address of Muxiang Residence in the group chat. However, Fong Duo couldn't figure out what kind of yin-yang medicine Long Tao was selling in his yin-yang gourd. Long Tao coughed and said seriously, "The All-Star competition starts off as an exhibition match. As an A Guild Club, our Dragon Gate Guild Club can't escape from the exhibition match. Plenty will be leading the team this time. Xiaochun and I won't be participating. You 3 main team members and 2 reserve team members will do." Fong Duo hurriedly replied, "Roger." Compared to the regular tournament, the All-Star competition was more like a large-scale carnival. Therefore, during the duels between the various teams, they would usually choose to hide their crucial trump cards and display the magnificence of high-grade phase abilities. This wasn't Fong Duo's first time leading an all-star exhibition team. At this time, Fong Duo was looking at the 5 reserve team members and calculating. When Zhao Xiaochun heard that she didn't need to go on stage for the all-star exhibition, she was extremely excited. He rolled his eyes and said to Long Tao, "Captain, since I'm not needed for the exhibition match, I'm sure I won't be needed for the coaching match either. Why don't I take this opportunity to take a break and explore the shops?" When Long Tao heard Zhao Xiaochun's words, his face darkened. Even if Long Tao was a hermaphrodite, there was nothing he could do to someone like Zhao Xiaochun, who only cared about food. "I can't, but after the all-star competition ends tomorrow, I'll treat you guys to a big meal." Zhao Xiaochun, who had lost interest when she heard that she couldn't go to the store, immediately raised her hand in response when she heard that Long Tao was going to treat her in the evening. "Tomorrow is the all-star match. I don't want to eat too much tonight. In a bit, I'll go to Muxianggu and have a taste. If it's delicious, let's go to Muxiang Pavilion for a feast tomorrow night." Hearing Zhao Xiaochun mention the Muxiang Pavilion, the gaze Long Tao looked at Zhao Xiaochun with suddenly became somewhat strange. But then Long Tao nodded and said, "Then we'll listen to Xiaochun and go to Muxiang Pavilion for a meal tomorrow. As for the challenge match and the coaching match facing the audience, it's not convenient for us 4 main members to participate since we're all members of the 100 sequence. Why don't our phone go up?" Chen Hongfeng hurriedly stood up and said, "Captain, I won't embarrass our Dragon Gate Guild Club." Long Tao named Chen Hongfeng as the candidate for the challenge and coaching match with the lucky audience, making the remaining 4 Dragon Gate Guild Club reserve members extremely envious. But thinking that Chen Hongfeng had already been confirmed by Long Tao to participate in the quarterfinals, the 4 reserve members had nothing to compare. It could be said that Chen Hongfeng's status was already a level higher than that of the reserve members. It was very likely that he would be promoted to the main member of the Dragon Gate Guild Club next year. Long Tao heard Chen Hongfeng's promise and said, "Your smooth-toothed elephant lizard's rank and quality have also been raised to Gold X/Epic. Although it hasn't awakened its dragon-type bloodline, it's only a step away from it. The huge-tailed swamp lizard has also reached Gold X/Epic. After this all-star match, I'll help you find someone to raise the huge-tailed swamp lizard from Gold X/Epic to Legendary. It'll also put the willpower rune you comprehended to use." Chen Hongfeng heard the meaning behind Long Tao's words and hurriedly said, "Thank you, Captain." The smooth-toothed elephant lizard swallowed the perfect quality dragon snake orchid flower you gave me last time, and the dragon-type bloodline in its body is being activated every day. It should be able to raise its bloodline and evolve into a dragon-tailed elephant lizard tomorrow or the day after. Long Tao nodded and dismissed the meeting after saying a few more words to Fong Duo. The first time. End of this chapter. Chapter 606. The meeting room of the Rhine Club was also brightly lit. However, the meeting in the Rhine Club's guild conference room had obviously been dismissed for a long time. Shi Su was the only one left in the conference room, holding his chin with his hand and laughing foolishly. At this moment, the door of the Rhine Club was pushed open from the outside. A young man who wasn't tall but looked very mature walked in. When the young man saw Shi Su laughing mysteriously while leaning on his arm, his face revealed an indescribable expression. How could such a fine young man become a fool? The mature youth walked to Shi Su's side and was about to ask Shi Su what was wrong. But he didn't expect Shi Su to speak first. "Captain, what should you do if someone secretly likes you?" Hearing this, the mature-looking young man's expression immediately became awkward. Li Ong expressed that even though he was the Radiance 100 sequence number 2, he looked rather mature and reserved. As a result, no one had ever come to flirt with him. He was a complete newbie in love. Not only had he never held a girl's hand, he had never even thought about it. "You asked me, what if someone secretly likes you? How would I know? On the other hand, I, Liang, would like to ask you, Shi Su, how do you make someone like you secretly?" Liang coughed lightly. His mature face remained unchanged as he calmly said to Shi Su, "What? I saw you smiling foolishly today, so it turns out that you've fallen in love." Hearing Liang's words, Shi Su immediately jumped up like a cat whose tail was pinched. "Captain, don't talk nonsense. It's someone else who likes me. I'm just thinking about whether or not I should accept her." As he spoke, Shi Su's voice became softer and softer. His face was as red as the braised pork that had just come out of the pot. If it had been someone else, they might have been able to tell that Shi Su was lying. But at this time, Liang's mind was filled with thoughts of how to make people secretly like him, so he obviously couldn't hear it. Seeing Shi Su's reaction, Liang hurriedly comforted him. "If you like her, then accept her. If you don't like her, then you're just forcing yourself." At this time, Liang heard Shi Shuchang say with a long sigh, "Sigh, the key is that the girl gave me a lot of money. The grace of a beauty is really sweet and distressing." Hearing Shi Su's sigh, Liang felt his hands itch. Liang looked at his own hand and thought that even if Shi Su used his lightning tortoise shell, he might still die from his slap. Liang quickly calmed himself down and thought to himself, "It's fine if no one has a crush on me, but Shi Su has a crush on someone, and there's even a little girl who's taking the initiative to give him money. What kind of good fortune is this? How could he still pretend to sigh when he had such good fortune?" Liang asked, pretending not to care. "How much did the girl who has a crush on you give you?" Hearing this, Shi Su said with even more melancholy, 50 million radiance dollars. As soon as Shi Su finished speaking, he heard Liang cough violently. Shi Su turned around and said to Liang, "Captain, if you're not feeling well, why don't you rest in the guild tomorrow? I'll help you lead the team to the all-star competition." Liang immediately stopped coughing and said in a mature manner, No need. My body is fine, and that girl gave you 50 million radiance dollars. She should be very rich, right?" Liang would never let Shi Su lead the team to the all-star competition for him even if he was beaten to death. The Rhine Guild Club was the champion of last year's S tournament. As the captain of the Rhine Guild Club, Liang would be participating in the all-star competition in a high-profile manner. He might even be able to use this opportunity to meet a girl who fell in love with him at first sight and write a love letter to him. At that time, he would be able to end his 24 years of single life and graduate from the automatic control major with glory. When Su heard Liang's question, he subconsciously replied, "How would I know that Zhao Xiaochun is so rich? How would I know that Zhao Xiaochun is so rich? She actually took out 50 million radiance dollars." As soon as Su said this, he immediately realized that he seemed to have revealed something incredible. In the morning, Su, who had been busy with the S tournament, finally had the time to log into his live streaming room on Star Web after more than a month. He was preparing to do a Star Web live streaming as usual. However, he didn't expect to receive a surprise box. Su rarely live streamed, but he understood that very few people would stuff a lot of money into a surprise box that didn't add any contribution points. He didn't expect to find 50 million radiance dollars after opening it. The working emperor, Su, was dumbfounded by the 50 million radiance dollars reward. When Su looked at the reward on the box, he realized that it was actually a reward from Zhao Xiaochun, who was also a Radiance 100 sequence member like him. The surprise box was a reward that the host could only receive 1 year after it was sent. Su sorted out his thoughts and finally determined that Zhao Xiaochun should have been secretly in love with him a year ago. He thought about the lewd words that Zhao Xiaochun had said to him in the Abyss Dimensional Rift. Su was sure that Zhao Xiaochun had wanted to use this method to attract his attention, but he hadn't reacted in time. Originally, Su didn't have any thoughts about Zhao Xiaochun. However, after thinking about it, Su felt that since he was single, he couldn't let down a girl's affection. Somehow, the more he thought about it, the more images Su had in his mind. When he was giggling earlier, Su had already thought of his daughter's name. When he thought about his daughter, Xiaochun, who looked fair and tender, Su couldn't help but curl up his mouth again. He let out a hee-hee-hee giggle. When Liang heard Su mention Zhao Xiaochun, he didn't react for a moment. When Liang came back to his senses, his jaw almost dropped to the ground. After a long while, Liang said suspiciously, "Isn't Zhao Xiaochun someone who only likes handsome men?" After Liang said this, he realized that what he said was wrong. Just as he was about to change the topic, he didn't expect to hear Su say this in a serious tone. "If Zhao Xiaochun didn't like handsome guys, she wouldn't have fallen for me at first sight." Liang looked at Su's confident look and was stunned. Liang felt that he and Su both had the appearance of a mature youth. Other than his height, Liang was confident that he was not worse than Su in any other aspect. Was it because of the stubble on Su's chin? Touching his chin, Liang decided to grow a beard from now on. The more Liang looked at Su, the more he felt that Su was an expert. Otherwise, Zhao Xiaochun wouldn't have been willing to give him 50 million radiance dollars to pursue him. Zhao Xiaochun should be going to the S tournament tomorrow. Do you want me to create an opportunity for you? Su shook his head and said mysteriously, "No need, she likes to eat." "No need, she likes it? I've already used the money Xiaochun gave me to open another restaurant. The second one was even better." End of this chapter. Chapter 607. At this point, Su's expression became even more sincere and resolute. "I also secretly told Long Tao about me and Xiaochun. When the time comes, Long Tao will bring Xiaochun to my restaurant for dinner. Confessions should be left to boys." Looking at Su's unfathomable look, Liang felt that he should learn more from Su on the road of love. Following an expert like Su was definitely the right choice. At the same time, Liang was somewhat vexed. If he had known that a master like Su was hiding by his side, she might even have a child by now. The next morning, after Lin Yuan woke up, he cut the hair that was originally covering his earlobes to his ears. After showering, Lin Yuan chose a set of spirit chi clothes with white and blue colors embellished with some platinum-colored silk patterns. The lock made of dragon species fey leather and scales extended from the waist all the way down to the calf. It made the white and blue spirit chi clothes look a little more heroic. He could not help but sigh. When Yu's lifestyle class spirit chi occupation, the weaver, was probably going to rise from class 3 to class 4. Not to mention the exquisite design of the spirit chi clothing, even the craftsmanship was a level higher than when he first made the clothes for himself. After leaving the room and eating breakfast, everyone prepared to head towards the all-star competition venue. Lu Jie said as he helped Chu Ci carry her backpack. The all-star competition will be held in the Palace of Radiance. I have already prepared lunch in the Fey storage box. Let me know if you are hungry. Chu Ci said hurriedly. Thank you, Brother Lu. Lin Yuan realized that Lu Jie really doted on her and would always ask her what she liked when cooking. Everyone in the manor, including the mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer, treated her well from the bottom of their hearts. This made Lin Yuan very happy and touched. He knew his sister very well. She was the kind of person who was not good with words and very slow to warm up. It was the care and love of the other people in the manor that allowed her to blend in so quickly. Lin Yuan didn't know much about the all-star competition and usually didn't pay much attention to it. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not know that the all-star competition's venue was actually the Palace of Radiance. The Radiance Palace could be said to be the second largest venue in the Radiance Federation after the Radiance Sacred Hall. Unlike the Radiance Sacred Hall, which represented the Radiance will, the Radiance Temple was undoubtedly much more relaxed. The Radiant Light Palace was open to all Spirit Chi professionals, and even non-Spirit Chi professionals could enter as long as they had a ticket. However, the Radiant Light Palace also had a strong sense of government. In a sense, the Radiant Light Palace belonged to the Radiance Sacred Hall. It had always been the staff of the Radiance Sacred Hall who managed the Radiance Temple. Venues like the Radiance Palace had always been the place to hold the Radiance 100 sequence selection in the past. Last year, the finals of the S tournament were not held in the Palace of Glow. Instead, it was held in the Starlight Palace, which was one level lower than the Radiance Palace. However, this time, the Guild Alliance had requested to hold the All-Star competition in the Radiant Light Palace. It could be seen that the scale of this year's All-Star competition was much larger than the previous ones. It could be said that the Guild Alliance had spent a lot to organize this event. When you didn't summon the Sunlight Egret as she usually did. Instead, he spoke to Lin Yuan. Young Master, every ticket for the All-Star competition includes the Guild Alliance's official flying phase for transportation services. There are now 10 soft feather unicorn birds waiting outside. Hu Quan interrupted and said, the Guild Alliance has really spent a lot of money. There are 200,000 seats in the Radiant Light Palace, which is equivalent to sending out 200,000 soft feather unicorn birds at the same time. Just the transportation cost of 20 soft feather unicorn birds for a day is no less than 1 trillion radiance dollars. Upon hearing Hu Quan's sigh, Lin Yuan shook his head. The Guild Alliance had spent such a huge price to send out the soft feather unicorn birds for transportation. It was probably not just for the service. It was more likely that the 200,000 spectators would be riding different flying fays. Tens of thousands of different types of flying fays would gather together. As some fays were natural enemies or predatory, they might attack each other uncontrollably. Many Spirit Chi professionals' flying fays were not contracted but bought from creation masters at a high price. This also caused the Spirit Chi professionals who were piloting the flying fays to be unable to have perfect control over their flying fays. If the Guild Alliance did not regulate this, there was bound to be chaos. After sighing, Hu Quan turned his eyes and said to Lin Yuan, tell me to reconsider my proposal to build a Fey carriage. Now that we have so many spatial magnets and floating silver threads, we can already build a supreme-grade Fey carriage. Now that I have so many spatial magnets and floating silver threads, I can create a supreme-grade Fey carriage. Clearly, Hu Quan coveted those spatial soft silver threads and spatial magnets. Upon hearing Hu Quan's words, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and said, Uncle Hu Quan, since you want to do it, then build the Fey carriage first. Lin Yuan had already made it clear that he wanted to hire a creation master. Sky City only had him and no other creation masters, so it was obviously impossible for it to develop quickly. This was because Lin Yuan's current problem of not being able to upgrade his phase grade was already an urgent need to be resolved. Otherwise, Lin Yuan could not possibly consume spirit chi crystals to upgrade Huquan's vitality sloth. In Lin Yuan's opinion, if he wanted to rope in a creation master, he had to rope in a Class 4 creation master. A Class 3 creation master could not solve many practical problems. In Lin Yuan's opinion, if he wanted to rope in a creation master, he would need to rope in a Class 4 creation master. A Class 3 creation master wouldn't be able to solve many practical problems. Sitting on the soft feather unicorn's back and looking down from a high altitude, Lin Yuan felt very comfortable. The soft feather unicorn was a very high-end fae. It was small, fast, and very comfortable to ride. It had horns on its head and scales on its wings. Its feathers were yellow and had a hint of auspiciousness. The soft feather unicorn was a very high-end fae. It was small, fast, and very comfortable to ride on. The soft feather unicorn in charge of picking up the passengers were all gold. Lin Yuan checked the 10 soft feather unicorn in charge of picking up the passengers and found that 4 of them were flawless. As they got closer to the Radiant Light Palace, there were more soft feather unicorn in the sky. When Lin Yuan could see the Radiant Light Palace, he was surrounded by many soft feather unicorn. If Lin Yuan had to use 2 words to describe the scene in front of him, Lin Yuan really had to hesitate for a while and did not know if he should use prosperous or lively. Lin Yuan had been in the royal capital for a long time, but he did not have many opportunities to walk around in the royal capital. Therefore, he had never seen the Radiant Light Palace before. When Lin Yuan knew that the Radiant Light Palace had 20 seats, he felt that it might be very crowded. However, after seeing the scale of the Radiant Light Palace, Lin Yuan felt that it could accommodate 600,000 people at the same time. Nighttime. Seeking recommendation votes and monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 608. The soft feather unicorn landed, and Lin Yuan met up with everyone. Lu Jie said as he took out the ticket from his pocket. Young master, the ticket I took is the Radiance 100 Sequences internal ticket. It's considered a benefit that the Guild Alliance gives to the Radiance 100 Sequence members. With the tickets, we don't have to wait here for the staff of the Palace of Glow to arrange for us to enter. We can go directly to the special passage. Lin Yuan felt comfortable being blown by the wind in the sky. He stretched in satisfaction and followed Lu Jie to walk inside through the special passage. At this moment, Chu Si suddenly called out and pointed to the side. Look, there are masks over there. Why don't we each buy a mask and wear it inside? Everyone looked in the direction Chu Si was pointing and immediately saw a stall selling all kinds of masks. Most of these masks were engraved with the logo of the various clubs and guild, as well as cartoon portraits of the club members. Everyone walked to the front of the stall and suddenly saw a silver mask on the stall. The mother of Bloodbath reached out to pick up the silver mask, and everyone subconsciously looked at Lin Yuan. Upon sensing everyone's gaze, Lin Yuan scratched his head awkwardly. Seeing that everyone had the intention to buy, the stall owner immediately introduced. You know Black, right? He's the little hero who fought his way to the Celestial Stairway, the one who achieved everything on the Celestial Stairway. There aren't many of these masks in stock. I had to work overtime to urge a few Class 1 spirit craftsmen to rush the production. They're all made of stainless steel and plated with a layer of bronze-grade spirit material, clear silver. The mother of Bloodbath asked directly, Boss, I want this mask. How much is one? The boss smiled honestly and stretched out his hand. 10 radiance dollars each. Lin Yuan looked at the stall owner's honest smile and felt that the owner's heart was black. However, the mother of Bloodbath clearly did not care about this and directly traded 100 radiance dollars to the vendor. Then he put the silver mask on his face. Chu Si smiled as she reached for a silver mask and put it on her face. At the same time, he handed one to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan, you look like Black the most when you wear this mask, right? Upon hearing Chu Si's words, the stall owner interrupted. This little brother looks kind. He doesn't have that cold aura. He doesn't look like this little brother when he wears it. It's just that this little brother is slightly shorter. Lin Yuan saw the stall owner point his finger at Listen and realized that Listen's eyes were really somewhat similar to his after wearing the mask. Chu Si often browsed the Star Web and was a frequent visitor to the Star Web video library. Even though he had never told her that he was black, Chu Si knew that he was black. However, when Chu Si saw Black's battle, she immediately recognized Chimey. In fact, even if there was no Chimey, as a family member who had been with Lin Yuan for over a decade, Chimey would still be able to help Lin Yuan. She could recognize him just by looking at his eyes behind the mask. It was precisely because she knew Black's identity that she was not complacent when she was regarded as the most talented genius of the younger generation on Star Web. Instead, it was because he knew that there were still many areas for him to work on. He put the silver mask back and felt that he was too narcissistic for wearing his own mask. Suddenly, Lin Yuan saw an inconspicuous mask in the back corner. He had some impression of the person on the mask. It seemed that his first Celestial Stairway promotion duel was against this Spirit Chi professional. Furthermore, he had encountered this Spirit Chi professional in the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, so it could be considered fate. Lin Yuan recalled that this person's name seemed to be Chen Hongfeng. Lin Yuan put on Chen Hongfeng's mask on his face. He walked all the way through the special passage. Lin Yuan found that there was a Spirit Chi professional wearing the Radiant Light Palace's staff uniform every 100 meters on both sides of the passage. These Spirit Chi professionals were the attendants of the Radiant Light Palace. Looking at the densely packed attendants, Lin Yuan knew that this all-star match might be a grand carnival and carnival, but the all-star match would be a grand carnival. However, the requirements for order were also extremely strict. If there were any special incidents, there would be an attendant every 100 meters who could rush over in time to deal with the emergency. After leaving the special passage, I arrived at the resting area of the club guild members. After passing through the resting areas of the various club guilds, they arrived at the official venue. In reality, the special passage was set up mainly for the players of the club guilds participating in the all-star competition. Chu Si looked around curiously along the way. Upon seeing Chu Si's curious look, Lin Yuan reached out to touch her head. He pressed down the erect hogue on Chu Si's head and said, "You are a defense-type Spirit Chi professional. In the future, you will also form your own team. At that time, you will also be able to participate in team battles." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Chu Si looked at him with sparkling eyes and asked, "Lin Yuan, can I form a team with you?" "Lin Yuan, can I form a team with you?" Before Lin Yuan could speak, Lu Jie, who was beside Chu Si, spoke up. "Young Master has also established a club guild. Next year's all-star competition will also be held after the quarterfinals. If we go smoothly in next year's tournament, we will also appear in the list of invited guilds for the all-star competition." Upon hearing Lu Jie's words, Chu Si's eyes lit up even more. She quickly changed her words to Lin Yuan. "Big brother, can I join your club guild?" Upon hearing Chu Si's words, Lin Yuan was startled. Chu Si was his younger sister, and Lin Yuan had always subconsciously treated Chu Si as a little girl who needed his care. Previously, when choosing teammates for the club guild, Lin Yuan had subconsciously excluded Chu Si. However, it was undeniable that Chu Si was already very strong. Moreover, compared to other Spirit Chi professionals of similar strength, Chu Si had an advantage in terms of potential. Moreover, Chu Si had a master like Cold Moon. Lin Yuan really did not know what level Chu Si's strength would reach in a year's time. In fact, just now, Chu Si's Silver V/Fantasy Breed Obsidian Iron Wild Bull's strength was already comparable to most Gold Fays. Moreover, the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull was not a Fantasy I Fey but a Fantasy 2 Fey. The Fantasy 2 quality allowed the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull to clash with most peak Gold/Legend Fays. In terms of the strength of her main Fey, Chu Si's strength could be said to have surpassed Lisan's. After Chu Si got used to the yellow jadeite golden butterfly's exclusive skill, Cold Moon would raise its grade and quality. Even without Lin Yuan's help, the yellow jadeite golden butterfly's grade and quality would be raised by Cold Moon. In that case, Chu Ci was now qualified to join Lin Yuan's club guild. First update, asking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 609. Since Chu Ci had made a request, and her strength had also reached the standard, Chu Ci's strength had already reached the standard. Lin Yuan naturally would not refuse. No problem, but you still have to focus on your studies. You can't fall behind. Chu Ci hurriedly nodded and patted her chest. Lin Yuan, don't worry. I can be a reserve member first and try to improve my strength in 1 year. Upon hearing Chu Ci's words, Listen, who was wearing a silver mask and looked very much like Black, revealed a bitter smile. Listen felt that he was quite talented, but after joining the Dome Guild Club, he increasingly felt that his strength was insufficient. In particular, after hearing Chu Ci's words, Listen felt even more pressured. Listen had been loyal to Lin Yuan for a long time and knew how many resources he had. Even if she was not very talented, just the resources in Lin Yuan's hands were enough for her to have strength far beyond her peers. Moreover, she was the #1 genius of the Radiance Federation's younger generation on Star Web. Recently, Listen had been busy managing the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce and had slacked off in training his combat skills. Listen had made up his mind. In the future, even if he had to sleep 2 hours less every day, he would hone his combat skills and improve his strength. The resting rooms of the club guilds in front of him all had the emblem of the various club guilds. It was easy to tell which guild club this lounge belonged to. The lounge of an A-rank guild club was at least 3 times larger than that of a B-rank guild club. Especially in terms of the decorations and designs, it showed that the A-grade clubs were far superior to the B-grade clubs. It revealed the superiority of an A-ranked club guild. Regardless of whether it was the lounge of an A-rank guild club or a B-rank guild club, the design style of the lounge was translucent. Aside from the closed combat meeting room in the lounge, one could see the activities of the guild members in the rest of the room through the transparent walls. Chu Ci was not a fan of celebrities, but when she saw many Radiance 100 sequence members in the guild club, she could not help but feel excited. Chu Ci couldn't help but feel excited. Seeing this, Lu Jie pondered for a moment and suggested, "This year's Radiance 100 sequence selection will be conducted on Star Web using a special selection method. Even the elimination process will be broadcasted on Star Web. Chu Ci, you can watch it if you're interested." Compared to the All-Star competition, it was obvious that the Radiance 100 sequence selection was more attractive to her. When Lin Yuan saw the excitement and seriousness in Chu Ci's expression, he knew that she wanted to know more about the Radiance 100 sequence selection besides watching the show. This was because the Radiance 100 sequence was also her current goal as a spirit chi professional. Chu Ci was filled with anticipation and excitement when she heard Lu Jie's words. More than that, he was puzzled. Big brother Lu, in the past Radiance 100 sequence selections, didn't we only see people who had gone through the elimination process and the original sequence members from sequence 90 to 100 compete in the arena? How come I can even watch the elimination process now? Lu Jie shook his head gently when he heard her question. As a Radiance 100 sequence member, Lu Jie naturally had some insider information. Lu Jie had mentioned it to him before. However, what puzzled Lu Jie was that the Radiance Sacred Hall had not disclosed the follow-up news and had kept it a secret. He was afraid that this secret would only be announced when the Radiance 100 elimination competition was going to take place. I heard that this time, the Guild Alliance will be able to apply for the Radiant Light Palace as the venue for the All-Star competition. A large part of the reason is that the Radiance Sacred Hall wants to use the participation of the Radiance 100 sequence members in the various A and B guild clubs to warm up for the new Radiance 100 selection. Otherwise, no matter how much the Guild Alliance invested, they wouldn't be able to apply for permission to host the All-Star Carnival at the Palace of Glow. At most, it will be the same as last year's S-Tournament Finals, applying for the Hall of Starlight. Upon hearing Lu Jie's words, Lin Yuan felt that the Radiance 100 sequence selection this time would not be simple. As he walked, he found himself passing by the lounge with the emblem of the Extreme Guild Club on the wall in front of him. Lin Yuan looked through the transparent glass wall and looked inside the Extreme Guild Club. In the end, he did not see any of the four of them. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw someone wearing the Extreme Guild Club's uniform walking toward the club's lounge. Lin Yuan hurriedly stepped forward and asked, "Excuse me, is Zhang Xiaobai in the lounge? I want to talk to him." The person Lin Yuan called was a short-haired youth with pockmarks on his face. Upon hearing Lin Yuan mention Zhang Xiaobai, the short-haired youth with pockmarks on his face showed a complicated expression. Zhang Xiaobai is no longer a member of the Extreme Guild Club's reserve team. Zhang Xiaobai has terminated his contract with the Extreme Guild Club and left. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan was about to ask about Xing, Tan Ran, and Lu Pinru. He found that the short-haired youth with freckles on his face ignored him and turned to walk into the lounge. Lin Yuan's brows were tightly knitted together. Lin Yuan saw that the pockmarked, short-haired youth was wearing the Extreme Guild Club's uniform with a reserve team member's identity card. The youth with pockmarks on his face had a hidden trace of joy and schadenfreude in his complicated expression. In Lin Yuan's opinion, it was very likely that Zhang Xiaobai had terminated his contract with the Extreme Guild Club. This pockmarked youth had the opportunity to become a member of the Extreme Guild Club's reserve team. After all, there were only 5 main and reserve team members that could be officially declared by the Guild Alliance. However, most of the guild clubs would nurture many reserve talents so that they could fill in time once there were vacancies. Lin Yuan had only guessed that something had happened to Zhang Xiaobai and the others, but he did not expect it to be so big. Zhang Xiaobai, Xing, Tan Ran, and Lu Pinru's daily lives as spirit chi professionals revolved around the Extreme Guild Club. They completed the missions arranged by the Extreme Guild Club day after day. At the same time, they trained and participated in the S tournament year after year. Not long ago, when Lin Yuan had chatted with Zhang Xiaobai and the others, Zhang Xiaobai had said that he was ready to play in the S tournament in the Extreme Guild Club until he was 30 years old. When he reached the upper limit required by the Guild Alliance, he would then transform into a full-time mercenary. In just a few short days, what had happened to completely change Zhang Xiaobai's mind? The second was even worse. End of this chapter. Chapter 610. The Extreme Guild Club did not treat Zhang Xiaobai and the others well. However, Zhang Xiaobai and the others had always been very concerned about the Extreme Guild Club. Wen Yu walked to Lin Yuan's side and asked softly, "Young master, do you want me to check the reason?" Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan shook his head and replied, "No need. I'll make a call and ask first." Originally, Lin Yuan thought that if he could meet Zhang Xiaobai at the all-star match, Xing and the others would ask. Lin Yuan had thought that if he could meet Zhang Xiaobai at the all-star match, he would ask Xing and the others. However, Lin Yuan did not expect that Zhang Xiaobai had actually withdrawn from the Extreme Guild Club. This made Lin Yuan want to immediately ask Zhang Xiaobai what had happened. Just as Lin Yuan picked up his cell phone and was about to call Zhang Xiaobai, in the distance, several staff members were dealing with a dispute between two youths. In the distance, several staff members were dealing with a dispute between two young men. Lin Yuan took a closer look and found that the youth whose phone was ringing in his pocket was Zhang Xiaobai. Although they were very far apart, Lin Yuan could see the abnormal anger on Zhang Xiaobai's unruly face. Lin Yuan took a closer look and found that the youth whose phone was ringing in his pocket was Zhang Xiaobai. The youth who was confronting Zhang Xiaobai was very strong and was a head taller than Zhang Xiaobai. His arms were thicker than Zhang Xiaobai's thighs. Zhang Xiaobai was already 185 meters tall and was considered a taller existence among the Radiance Federation's spirit chi professionals. The sturdy man stood there like a black iron tower. However, this black iron tower-like strong man's eyes were looking at Zhang Xiaobai with obvious mockery and mockery. Zhang Xiaobai was also trying his best to restrain his emotions. He clenched and released his fists, and the veins on his forehead were bursting out. Lu Jie could keenly sense the change in Lin Yuan's emotions and walked to his side. "Young master, do you know the person in front? It's a serious problem to cause trouble in the Radiance Sacred Hall. It's best not to blow things up. Otherwise, it will affect the guild that is participating in the all-star match. If young master knows him, I can go and deal with it. Lu Jie did not know Zhang Xiaobai and did not know that Lin Yuan and Zhang Xiaobai had once guarded Millstone Town and experienced life and death together. However, Lu Jie knew that this matter had gotten out of hand when he saw that 6 staff members of the Radiant Light Temple had surrounded them. Otherwise, an ordinary conflict would only be handled by 2 staff members at most. Upon closer inspection, Lu Jie saw an indistinct red mark on the towering man's face. From the looks of it, there had already been a physical altercation. Lin Yuan's brows were tightly knitted behind his mask. Lin Yuan knew Zhang Xiaobai very well, and he was not a troublemaker. Therefore, there must be a reason for such a situation to occur. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw the black tower-like sturdy man step forward and say something to Zhang Xiaobai. At that moment, Lin Yuan keenly noticed that Zhang Xiaobai's body was constantly leaning toward the burly man. Lin Yuan thought, not good. Zhang Xiaobai was probably unable to control his emotions after hearing the words of the black iron tower-like man. If the conflict between Zhang Xiaobai and Zhang Xiaobai in the Palace of Glow could be said to be over after several staff members dealt with it. However, if Zhang Xiaobai made trouble in front of the 6 staff members of the Palace of Glow, it would be tantamount to provoking the staff members of the Palace of Glow, and the nature of the matter would become serious. Let's go and take a look together. After speaking, Lin Yuan quickly walked toward the site of the conflict. Just as Zhang Xiaobai clenched his fist and was ready to throw it out recklessly, he found that his wrist was held by someone, and a familiar voice sounded in his ear. Xiaobai, what's the situation? Zhang Xiaobai, whose wrist was suddenly held by Lin Yuan, suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He realized that he had been too impulsive just now. Zhang Xiaobai obviously did not expect to meet Lin Yuan here and wanted to smile at Lin Yuan. However, when the smile appeared on his face, it turned into a bitter smile. At that moment, the black iron tower-like sturdy man spoke in a low, muffled voice. Since the conflict was not initiated by me, I will also go back and prepare for a combat meeting. After getting the consent of the 6 Palace of Glow staff members, the black iron tower-like sturdy man looked at Zhang Xiaobai with eyes full of mockery and playfulness. Hee, you still have friends? If you have friends, why don't you think about how to borrow some money from them? Give me the money, and I'll put away the things that need to be put away. It won't delay your business. After saying that, the sturdy man turned around and walked toward the lounge on the side. Unbeknownst to the burly man, he was being scrutinized by Lu Jie as he turned around and walked into the lounge. After taking a few glances at the tower-like man, Lu Jie couldn't help but look at Zhang Xiaobai with sympathy. Lin Yuan let go of Zhang Xiaobai's wrist. Little White, you need a lot of money. I have some here. When Zhang Xiaobai heard Lin Yuan's words, his heart warmed. But then Zhang Xiaobai shook his head and said, "It's not as simple as money." As he spoke, Zhang Xiaobai's eyes turned red. At this moment, a solemn voice suddenly sounded. Former Extreme Guild Club Reserve team member Zhang Xiaobai, right? You initiated an attack on Meng Su, a member of the Barbarian Snake Guild Club's main force in the resting area, am I right? Right after this solemn voice sounded, Lu Jie, who was standing behind Lin Yuan, stepped forward and took off his mask. I'm Radiance 100 Sequence 30, Lu Jie. This person is my friend. He had a small conflict with a member of the Barbarian Snake Guild Club. He already knows his mistake. Let's settle this in private. There will be no conflict in the Palace of Glow. When the 6 staff members saw Lu Jie, they looked at each other. The staff member who spoke just now said to Lu Jie, "Since that's the case, please don't do it again." After that, the 6 staff members of the Palace of Glow returned to their original areas, ready to deal with any accidents that might happen next. Upon seeing that Zhang Xiaobai had something to say to him but did not know how to say it, Lin Yuan patted him on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry. Xiaobai was doing fine in the Extreme Guild Club previously. Why did she suddenly decide to leave the Extreme Guild Club?" Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Zhang Xiaobai pursed his lips tightly and said after a long while, "Lin Yuan, Can you lend me 300,000 radiance dollars? Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan took out his star web card. Before Lin Yuan could speak, Lu Jie walked to Zhang Xiaobai's side and asked, "Were your teammates injured by Meng Su from the Barbarian Snake Guild Club and had their senses stolen by Meng Su's contracted sensory theft Kingu? Are they lying in the hospital like vegetative people now?" The third one. End of chapter. Chapter 611. Lu Jie's words made Lin Yuan's hand, which was holding onto the star web card, pause. A person relied on spiritual energy to control the human body's movements, while the five senses were tools for spiritual energy to control the human body's movements and cognition of the surroundings. Depriving the five senses was akin to stealing a person's hearing, sight, smell, taste, and touch. Without these five senses, even if one's spiritual energy and soul were not depleted, one would still sink into the endless darkness. Zhang Xiaobai looked at Lu Jie in a daze and nodded gratefully to Lu Jie. It could be said that Zhang Xiaobai and Lu Jie were very similar people, just like how Zhang Xiaobai had protected Millstone Town and how Lu Jie had resisted the insect tide outside Cold Frost City. Among the Radiance 100 sequence, Zhang Xiaobai liked many people. However, apart from liking Lu Jie, Zhang Xiaobai respected him more. His idol was standing at the side and helping him out. If it was any other time, Zhang Xiaobai would have jumped 3 feet high. His mouth was like an old lady's cotton pants, chattering nonstop. But now, Zhang Xiaobai's mood was getting heavier, and he felt helpless at the same time. Originally, Zhang Xiaobai did not want to involve Lin Yuan. The Barbaric Snake Guild Club was a veteran B-grade guild club without the Radiance 100's backing, and the power behind it should not be underestimated. However, when Lu Jie mentioned Meng Su and his contracted Fei, the Steel Perception King Gu, Zhang Xiaobai started to talk. He poured out everything that had happened during this period of time. 4 days ago, Lady White Devil unilaterally terminated the contract with the Extreme Guild Club. As a result, 3 members of the main team were unable to participate in the top 16 duel. The 4 of us arranged to go up. When that damn Wei Chong was accumulating his abilities, he actually asked Lu Pinru to help him block the damage. Lu Pinru is a defense-type spirit chi professional, and Wei Chong is a scoundrel. Zhang Xiaobai was originally a chatterbox, and it was rare for him to calm down. After holding it in for 4 days, he could no longer hold back his chatterbox. The more Lin Yuan listened, the tighter his frown became. Lin Yuan had always known that there was a problem with the Extreme Guild Club, but he did not expect it to be so huge. In combat, the captain of a small team was usually the commander, and the captain's will would greatly affect the team's combat style. It could be said that the captain's words were in order. Zhang Xiaobai, Tan Ran, Lu Pinru, and Xian Ying were replaced by 4 of the main team members who were unable to attend the match. This was a match that they were bound to lose. Wei Chong, as the team leader, had ordered Lu Pinru to use her body to block the attack. This meant that Wei Chong did not care about Lu Pinru's safety at all. The duels in the real world were different from the Celestial Stairway duels on Star Web. In the Celestial Stairway duels, some Fays could use suicidal attacks at will in exchange for victory. However, in a real battle, any collision had to be handled with extreme caution. Every serious injury caused by a collision would require them to look for a creation master for treatment after the competition. In some serious cases, spirit chi professionals and Fays had even died. Lin Yuan now roughly understood why Zhang Xiaobai had quit the Extreme Guild Club. At that moment, Zhang Xiaobai continued speaking. When Lu Pinru helped Wei Chong block the attack, she wasn't wearing any silk clothing at all. At that time, apart from me, Wei Chong took all of the silk clothing that Lu Pinru had made. In Wei Chong's team, what's the use of so many silk clothing for a combat-type spirit chi professional with high-explosive long-range elemental damage? Upon hearing this, Lin Yuan could not help but interrupt. Wei Chong was wearing so many of Lu Pinru's clothes. How could he let Lu Pinru help block the attack? Lin Yuan had worn the hard armor silk clothing woven by Lu Pinru's Fei, lustrous weaver silkworm. Lin Yuan had a deep understanding of the hard armor silk clothing's defense. Just a layer of the hard armor silk clothing's defense should be able to match the damage that a support-type spirit chi professional like Lu Pinru could withstand, right? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's question, Zhang Xiaobai's expression turned into deep worry. The Fey that attacked Wei Chong was the soul-crushing spike from the Savage Snake Guild Club's main team leader's Fey, the soul-crushing hedgehog. The soul-crushing spike's speed is not fast, and even I can dodge it. However, Wei Chong clearly could have dodged it, but he didn't. Wei Chong was bound to lose, but he still wanted to use the continue ability, wanting to replace a member of the Savage Snake Guild Club to increase his stats in the tournament. When the tournament was about to end, Meng Su used the Sense Theft King Gu to steal Lu Pinru's, Xian Ying's, and Tan Rant's senses. It's fine that Xian Ying's and Tan Rant's senses were stolen. When Meng Su controlled the Sense Theft King Gu to fight, he would always release Xian Ying's and Tan Rant's senses in order to free up the Sense Theft King Gu's 5 senses. But Lu Pinru's soul was already injured, and she had lost her 5 senses. How could she withstand it? Upon hearing this, Lin Yuan clenched his fists tightly. Among all the Feys, only an extremely small number of Feys could cause damage to the soul. People had always been wary of Feys that could cause damage to the soul. A damaged soul was definitely a fatal blow to a spirit chi professional. Apart from feeling the intense pain at the soul level, the spirit chi professional's grade would not be able to increase before the soul injury was healed. If a creation master's soul spirit was injured, before the soul spirit recovered, no matter how talented they were, they would be stuck at the pinnacle of Class 3 creation masters. A Class 4 creation master's technique already involved the usage of soul spirit power. The excruciating pain in the soul was unbearable, no matter how strong-willed one was. On the other hand, the 5 senses dominated by mental power could effectively share the pain when the soul was in pain. However, Lu Pinru had been deprived of her 5 senses. She could only slowly savor the pain and torment that came from her soul in the darkness of imprisonment. It was fine if it was only for a short period of time, but if it continued for a long period of time, his spirit and soul would collapse under the torture of the soul pain. At that time, Lu Pinru would be finished. At that moment, Lin Yuan felt his sleeve being pulled. He turned his head and found Chu Si, who was wearing a silver mask, looking at him. He saw anger and worry in her eyes. Lin Yuan patted Chu Si's hand and asked Zhang Xiaobai in a deep voice. So, 300,000 radiance dollars is the price for Meng Su to release Lu Pinru, Xianing, and Tan Rant's 5 senses? Zhang Xiaobai gritted his teeth and said. Meng Su knew that Lu Pinru's soul spirit was injured, so he continued to release the 5 senses trapped in the Sense Theft King Gu. 300,000 is the price Meng Su offered to release Lu Pinru's 5 senses. First more. Seeking recommendation votes and monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 612. Having said that, Zhang Xiaobai wanted to raise his fist and punch the wall next to the Palace of Glow. Zhang Xiaobai could not bear the feeling of being bullied and taking advantage of the situation. However, when Zhang Xiaobai felt the cold eyes of the staff of the Palace of Glow not far away, he was so scared that he quickly withdrew his fist and said with hatred, "If not for the fact that there's no one to take care of the 3 of them right now, I would really want to fight it out with Meng Su." Back in the Xia region, Lin Yuan had climbed up step by step. For more than a decade, he had been leading Chu Si through the trivialities of life alone, and it was not rare for him to be bullied by others. Therefore, Lin Yuan could understand Zhang Xiaobai's feelings very well. "Xiaobai, didn't the Extreme Guild Club help you deal with this?" Zhang Xiaobai pretended to be indifferent and shrugged. However, Lin Yuan realized that Zhang Xiaobai's voice had changed a little. "It's not that we're not doing anything, but this matter involves the main member, Wei Chong. We also encountered Captain White Devil withdrawing from the Extreme Guild Club and terminating his contract with the Extreme Guild Club. The management of the Extreme Guild Club knows that they might not even make it to the top 32 with their current strength next year. Therefore, the Extreme Guild Club doesn't want to offend the Savage Snake Guild Club, which has been in the top 16 for the past few years. Plus, Lu Pinru's soul is injured. After weighing the pros and cons, the union has decided to increase my Xian Ying's and Tan Rant's benefits. They haven't given any specific treatment plan for Lu Pinru. At the same time, I have also arranged for a support-type spirit chi professional in the reserve team. What's the point of staying in a guild like this? Zhang Xiaobai's tone became deeper and deeper. As he spoke, Zhang Xiaobai's eyes turned red. After saying that, Zhang Xiaobai sighed softly. This sigh spat out all of Zhang Xiaobai's longing and hard work in the Extreme Guild Club, despite the trials and tribulations he had faced. Apart from a few guild clubs that were established by Radiant's 100 sequence members and focus on results, there aren't many guild clubs. Many club guilds have powerful forces supporting them, so they value profit more than anything else. No one knew if Lu Jie was comforting Zhang Xiaobai when he said that. He was still explaining the situation to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan nodded at Lu Jie's words. Lin Yuan ran his faction, Sky City, so he naturally knew the importance of profits. However, in Lin Yuan's heart, some things were always more important than pure interests. At that moment, Lu Jie continued to speak. Meng Su of the Barbarian Snake Guild Club has been doing similar things for the past few years. The other main members of the Barbarian Snake Guild Club also know about Meng Su's actions. Lu Jie's words were filled with disgust for the Barbarian Club. Lin Yuan didn't quite understand, no matter how the factions weighed their interests. However, the Guild Alliance couldn't just ignore a tumor like the Barbarian Snake Guild Club, right? I remember that the Guild Alliance has very strict requirements for the S-tournament clubs. Surely someone has reported this situation to the Guild Alliance? Lu Jie snorted coldly at the Barbarian Snake Guild Club's lounge. After the theft sense king insect steals the 5 senses, it can release the 5 senses at any time. Even if someone reports the Barbarian Snake Guild, before the Guild Alliance can investigate the Barbarian Snake Guild, the theft sense king insect will release the 5 senses imprisoned in its body. Out of all the B-rank club guilds, the Barbarian Snake Guild Club should be the only guild that isn't popular at all. Instead, it's hated. Last year, when the All-Stars drew lucky spectators, the lucky spectator that the Barbarian Snake Guild Club drew didn't choose to participate in a mentoring battle but a challenge. That lucky spectator was immediately beaten up by the Barbarian Snake Guild Club's representative, and his Fae was severely injured. This incident caused the Barbarian Snake Guild Club to almost not be able to participate in this year's All-Stars. When you had been standing quietly at the side, listening to Lin Yuan and Zhang Xiaobai's conversation and feeling Lin Yuan's intentions. After sensing that Lin Yuan wanted to interfere in this matter, she took a step forward and walked in front of Lin Yuan. Young master, do you want me to stop the All-Stars and get the Guild Alliance to investigate the Barbarian Snake Guild Club immediately? Zhang Xiaobai was originally immersed in all sorts of negative emotions. However, when he heard the female voice that suddenly appeared beside Lin Yuan, he almost couldn't breathe. Fuck, big sister, are you speaking human words? Aren't you being too pretentious? How could a competition like the All-Stars be stopped so casually? She even had to instruct the Guild Alliance to investigate. Zhang Xiaobai was very clear about what kind of organization the Guild Alliance was. How could the Guild Alliance listen to a single person's command and interfere with the All-Stars that the Guild Alliance had meticulously planned? Wasn't this the same as a person using a pair of scissors to cut his meticulously woven clothes? If Zhang Xiaobai didn't know Lin Yuan's identity as black, and was Lin Yuan's comrade-in-arms who had gone through life and death with him, Zhang Xiaobai was afraid that he would turn around and leave at this moment, wanting to stay far away from the mental patient. However, for some reason, Zhang Xiaobai felt that the girl's words just now had an indescribable air of nobility and matter-of-fact. It was as though it was extremely easy to say those words, as natural and simple as drinking water. The insensitive Zhang Xiaobai also came back to his senses and couldn't help but start to guess Lin Yuan's identity. At that moment, Zhang Xiaobai's cell phone rang. After Zhang Xiaobai picked up the phone, his expression became anxious. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Xiaobai hurriedly said, "Something happened at the treatment center. There's a situation at the treatment center. I need to go back and take a look." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan turned around and said to the people around him, "You guys go to the venue to watch the competition first. I will go to the treatment center with Zhang Xiaobai to take a look. When I come back, I will go straight to the seats to look for you guys." When Zhang Xiaobai heard Lin Yuan's words, his heart suddenly warmed up, and he couldn't help but pat Lin Yuan's shoulder hard. He shouted, "Good brother," and once again attracted the attention of the Radiant Light Palace's staff. After explaining to everyone, Lin Yuan and Zhang Xiaobai walked out of the Radiant Light Palace. On the other hand, the mother of Bloodbath was like a shadow that followed closely behind him. Along the way, Zhang Xiaobai's mood was still very heavy. Suddenly, he heard a strange and pleasant voice. "How do you think a kidney should be roasted to be delicious?" When Zhang Xiaobai saw that there was a person following Lin Yuan, he only thought that it was Lin Yuan's friend. As the person was wearing a silver mask, Zhang Xiaobai could only tell that it was a woman based on her hair. Zhang Xiaobai was a little curious. How did this woman know that I like to eat kidneys and has some research on it? Could it be that I have eaten too much and can tell from my face? The second one was even worse. End of this chapter. Chapter 613. On the soft feather unicorn's back, Lin Yuan was still thinking about Lu Pinru's soul injury. Soul injuries were extremely difficult to heal, and most of the things that could heal them were very precious. They were no longer in the category of ordinary spiritual ingredients. However, Lin Yuan happened to have something that could heal soul injuries. It was the cold snow pines tree sap. However, the cold snow pines tree sap could only be considered a half-finished product for healing soul injuries. It still needed to use pure fire elemental energy to roast the cold snow pines sap into cold snow pine fragrance. Therefore, Lin Yuan was not worried that Lu Pinru would collapse due to the loss of her 5 senses. This time, Lin Yuan would follow Zhang Xiaobai to the treatment center because he wanted to heal Lu Pinru's soul injury as soon as possible. He wanted to let Lu Pinru suffer less. As for the 5 senses that had been stolen by the Steel Perception King Gu, Lin Yuan had 100 ways to help Xing, Lu Pinru, and Tan Ran get them back. Upon hearing the Mother of Bloodbath's question to Zhang Xiaobai, Lin Yuan knew that the Mother of Bloodbath's gourmet habit was acting up again. Back in Millstone Town, the Mother of Bloodbath had always been on his body. As a third party, the Mother of Bloodbath had seen everything that had happened more clearly than Lin Yuan. Although Zhang Xiaobai did not know the Mother of Bloodbath, the Mother of Bloodbath was very familiar with him. The Mother of Bloodbath, who was passionate about food, was thinking about the kidney that Zhang Xiaobai had been saying was fragrant. Zhang Xiaobai's heart was heavy and he did not like to talk much. When it came to food, the Mother of Bloodbath, which was usually a quiet person, became more talkative. This complementation allowed Zhang Xiaobai and the Mother of Bloodbath to exchange their experiences and insights on the topic of the kidney. Lin Yuan shook his head. If the Mother of Bloodbath really did as Zhang Xiaobai said and tried the tender kidney that was 30% ripe, Zhang Xiaobai would probably be beaten up by the Mother of Bloodbath afterward. When they arrived at the treatment center, Zhang Xiaobai led Lin Yuan to Xing, Lu Pinru, and Tan Ran, who were lying motionless on the bed as if they were in a deep sleep. Inside the treatment center, there was a woman holding a scepter, and a cage hung at the front of the scepter. There was a green butterfly in the cage. He was confronting an old man with messy clothes and a messy beard. Upon seeing Zhang Xiaobai come in, the old man with a messy beard shouted at him. "White kid, you asked me to help heal your phase damaged roots. Now, you're looking for a healing-type spirit chi professional. What's the meaning of this? You don't believe in this old man's skills?" Zhang Xiaobai hurriedly apologized to the disheveled old man with messy clothes and a black beard. "Sorry, Master Hong Shen. This is our team leader." When Zhang Xiaobai answered the phone, he heard Master Hong Shen say that someone was causing trouble in the treatment center and that he was not going to treat them. However, he didn't expect that the person who came would be Lady White Devil, who had spent a lot of money to terminate the contract with the Extreme Club. "Sister Daisy, why did you come to this place?" White Devil didn't immediately answer Zhang Xiaobai's question. Instead, she glared at the disheveled and unkempt god Hong Shen. "Old man, Don't you recognize me? Master Hong Shen rolled his eyes. Motherfucker, you've asked me several times, who are you? Do I have to recognize you? Just as Master Hong Shen finished speaking, he saw the strange woman who was carrying a cage on the street giggling at him before responding with a hee-hee sound. Master Hong Shen's face immediately flushed with anger. God knew how much this narcissistic woman had taken advantage of his catchphrase. White Devil looked at Zhang Xiaobai apologetically and said, I've heard about the four of you. I've heard about what happened to the four of you. If I hadn't terminated the contract with the Extreme Club, the four of you wouldn't have been replaced. Zhang Xiaobai quickly waved his hand and said, I've heard about the four of you. It has nothing to do with Senior Sister. White Devil reached out and patted Zhang Xiaobai's shoulder. If you want to play in the S tournament, you can still play for another 5 years at your age. I heard that you've also withdrawn from the Extreme Guild Club. It's a smart choice. Why don't you settle down for a year and find a suitable guild club to work hard? Don't be too caught up in the past. Let the past be the past. After speaking, White Devil didn't care about Zhang Xiaobai's reaction. She took out a bronze fey storage box from the butterfly-shaped diamond fey storage box in front of her chest and handed it to Zhang Xiaobai. The lustrous weaver silkworm that you asked me to find should have used up all your savings. This fey storage box contains the lustrous weaver silkworm that you asked me to find and the money you paid me in advance. Take it back first. You should be rather short of money now. You don't have to bother about the Barbarian Snake Guild Club's Mangsu. The all-star match will end today, and I will settle it tomorrow or the day after. After speaking, White Devil looked at the sleeping Lu Pinru with pity and left the infirmary. Zhang Xiaobai wasn't the only one who didn't expect to meet White Devil here. Even Lin Yuan didn't expect that one of the main characters of the duel that had set off his dream half a year ago would appear before him again. When he had watched White Devil and Unknown Flames duel, he had felt that White Devil was a very cold person. He didn't expect White Devil's personality to be the exact opposite of her personality. She was cheerful and gentle, even though this gentleness was only shown in action. However, it was also this gentleness that showed in action that White Devil was a very kind person. From Zhang Xiaobai's performance, Lin Yuan could see that Zhang Xiaobai and White Devil weren't very familiar. They were merely the main force members and reserve members of the same guild club. White Devil was the Radiance 100 sequence number 18 and had a transcendent status. However, she was very considerate towards the reserve members. Especially when Zhang Xiaobai and the others encountered difficulties, she was willing to lend a hand. Just at the end, when White Devil said that she would help settle the Barbarian Snake Guild's problem, it was the same as taking on a rather big problem for herself. All of a sudden, Master Hong Shen's originally relaxed expression changed. His entire body stiffened, and his hands tightly grabbed onto the corner of the table beside him. Bean-sized beads of sweat rolled down Master Hong Shen's forehead. Zhang Xiaobai clearly understood Master Hong Shen's situation and didn't panic. Instead, he took out a small medicine bottle from Master Hong Shen's pocket and poured out a pill to help Master Hong Shen put it into his mouth. Lin Yuan, who was 3 meters away from Master Hong Shen and Zhang Xiaobai, smelled a very bitter taste. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath, who was beside Lin Yuan, spoke softly. This old man's soul is so severely injured, but he is still able to hold on. How interesting. Part 3. Requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. Love you guys, my end of this chapter. Chapter 614. When Lin Yuan heard that, he looked at the disheveled Master Hong Shen with surprise. When Lin Yuan had entered, he had noticed that Master Hong Shen was wearing a Class 3 Creation Master crest. Furthermore, the 4th star pattern on the Class 3 Creation Master's crest had risen, indicating that Master Hong Shen's Creation Master ability had reached the pinnacle of a Class 3 Creation Master. It could be said that Master Hong Shen had already reached the limits of a Creation Master when his soul spirit was injured. Only after a long while did Master Hong Shen recover from the intense pain. Master Hong Shen, who came back to his senses, picked up the cup on the table and gulped down the water in the cup before saying to Zhang Xiaobai, "Kid, I have healed the phase with damaged roots that you sent over. However, you can't owe me the money you owe me. As usual, if you don't have enough money, go dig some bitter fern roots for me when you're out on a mission. Upon hearing the words bitter fern root, Lin Yuan knew what the bitter smell was. It turned out that Master Hong Shen had been relying on the bitter taste of the bitter fern root to suppress the pain in his soul. This was also a good way to use one of the 5 senses, taste, to share the pain of the injured soul. If the tip of an ordinary person's tongue touched the root of the bitter fern, they would feel like they were chewing on coptis for a day. It could be said to be an inhuman torture. However, this kind of pain that ordinary people couldn't bear was actually a relief for people whose souls were injured. Lin Yuan saw that Master Hong Shen was calculating the treatment fees with Zhang Xiaobai. Lu Pinru's 4 lustrous weaver mulberry silkworms had been revived and were spitting out silk threads from their frames. He was about to see if he could rent a room from Master Hong Shen so that he could use the heavenly maiden-grade fire elemental pearls to roast the cold snow pine's tree sap into cold snow pine incense to heal Lu Pinru's soul injury. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard Master Hong Shen say to Zhang Xiaobai, "Get lost, kid. I'm tired. Next time you come, don't forget to dig up a good bitter fern root and bring it to me. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come." As he spoke, Master Hong Shen's expression turned ugly again. He hurriedly took out the medicine bottle from his bosom and poured out 2 pills made from the roots of the bitter fern and placed them in his mouth. To resist the pain coming from the depths of his soul, Lin Yuan said to Zhang Xiaobai, who was walking toward him, "Little White, go and rent a place from Master Hong Shen. I'll go and concoct the medicine to heal Lu Pinru's soul." When Zhang Xiaobai heard this, his face immediately showed a look of surprise. Zhang Xiaobai could feel how difficult it was to treat a soul injury just by looking at how Master Hong Shen had been suppressing it with the bitter fern root for so many years without being able to heal it. Originally, Zhang Xiaobai was prepared to wait for Xening and Tan Ran to wake up before going on a mission to raise money and think of a solution for Lu Pinru. If he couldn't raise enough money in a year, he could always think of something after 5 or 10 years. However, he did not expect that Lin Yuan would actually make a move and solve this problem. All of a sudden, Zhang Xiaobai remembered that Lin Yuan was not only a healing class spirit chi professional but also a creation master. Just as Master Hong Shen was about to mock Lin Yuan, he saw the crystal bottle in Lin Yuan's hand. Master Hong Shen's eyes widened in shock. Master Hong Shen wasn't sure what the liquid in the bottle was, but he could tell that the liquid in the bottle was emitting an ice-cold and moist feeling. It had already suppressed the pain in the depths of Master Hong Shen's soul. After the pain disappeared, Master Hong Shen hurriedly spat out the bitter fern root pill that had yet to melt and cursed, "It's really fucking bitter." Zhang Xiaobai was just about to discuss with Master Hong Shen about renting a room in the treatment center when Master Hong Shen's eyes lit up and he took small steps to Lin Yuan's side. "Little handsome brother, can you sell some of the liquid in the bottle to this old man?" "I'll do anything you want me to do." Lin Yuan looked at Master Hong Shen strangely. Lin Yuan rarely came out, and even if he had outstanding looks, there were almost no opportunities for people to call him little handsome brother. However, now that an old man was calling him little handsome brother with greedy eyes, Lin Yuan felt his hair stand up. Especially the last sentence, "I'll do anything you want me to do." It made Lin Yuan rather puzzled. Is he really allowed to do anything? You're already so old. Don't tell me you still have some tricks up your sleeves? When Master Hong Shen saw that Lin Yuan wasn't moved after hearing his request and was only looking at him in astonishment, Master Hong Shen immediately became anxious. He stared at the bottle in Lin Yuan's hand and reached out to snatch it. At this moment, Master Hong Shen felt a chilling pressure pressing down on him, making it difficult for him to breathe. The chilling pressure only appeared for a moment before it was withdrawn. Master Hong Shen glanced fearfully at the woman who was looking at him with a sneer on her face. He then recalled that he had to be tortured by the intense pain in his soul several times a day. Clenching his teeth, he spoke. "If you are willing to sell some of the liquid in the bottle to this old man so that this old man can suppress the damage to his soul, then you can choose any of this old man's wealth. If you can completely heal this old man's soul injury, this old man is willing to work for you." After speaking, Master Hong Shen brushed aside his messy beard and removed a black ring-shaped diamond fey storage box that was wrapped in his beard. He solemnly held the black ring-shaped fey storage box in his hand and handed it to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan looked at the expression on Master Hong Shen's face and thought of the pain he had suffered after his soul trauma flared up. It was as though he suddenly understood why a creation master would be willing to use freedom as a bargaining chip. Lin Yuan shook the milky blue liquid in the bottle and said, "That's right. This is the sap of a suzerain/myth 2 cold snow pine. What do you have that you can trade with me?" When the mother of Bloodbath saw Lin Yuan speak, its eyes flashed with a bright gaze. He knew that Lin Yuan was already coveting this disheveled old man with messy clothes and a black beard. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Master Hong Shen's face sank. He glanced at the black ring on his hand and put it away. Master Hong Shen took a step back and looked at Lin Yuan solemnly. "I might be a Pinnacle Class 3 creation master now, but I have been stuck at it for 15 years. I believe that after my soul spirit recovers, I will be able to grasp the method to use my soul spirit power to concoct the spirit fluid. In less than half a month, I will be able to become a Class 4 creation master." Speaking up to this point, Master Hong Shen tidied up his messy clothes before continuing. "This old man is willing to offer all of my freedom to you and swear on the willpower rune to become your follower. The first one was even worse." End of chapter. That you're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.